I'd like to welcome everybody to HBCU Coaches Corner. I am the co-host, Rocky Miller, along with my trusty sidekick, the Rattler himself, the Bishop, the Detective, and the Rattler, none other than Stephen Campbell. Thank you for joining me, Steve. Coach had a conflict, but we're committed to doing this show tonight, so we're going to carry on without him. Hopefully he is able to come on with us and carry out this conversation hopefully soon, because we got a few things we want to cover. We definitely want to talk about Shedeur. There's a lot of other conversations going on about what programs are blue bloods or what programs are first tier, second tier. Started a lot of dialogue, but one thing, Steve, before we get started, let me ask you, Steve, how you doing, brother?
Man, listen, I'm doing great. We are less than, what is this? Well, probably, I guess we play on the 6th. Is that right? No, we're not the 6th, the 29th, 30th of this month. Bottom line is we're close.
SWAC MEAC Challenge is on the 23rd, Steve.
23rd.
So we're less than 20 days out, man.
I will be there to see what Perry's Southern Jaguars are going to do. And Johnnie Thornton and him, we're not worried that we're blue blood Eagles, gave me that call. So, man, I'm excited, man. I am super, super excited, man, because, hey, man, this is our time, man. This is our time. This is what brings us all together. And, man, this is a new era. Like I say, Deion is over to Colorado. So now all of y'all primaries, y'all here. Y'all still here. So, man, that is great, man. So, listen, man, like I said, we got our folks walking in, like I say, Jay and Tony Matthews and Willa Keener, Stuttering Newt, always got their sign up. So, man, listen, we here, man. So, we appreciate y'all being here, man. We want y'all to enjoy the conversation, and we want you guys to be a part of the conversation. Because the one thing I will say about HBCU folks, they got an opinion about Shedeur. I tell you that right now. And they got an opinion about who's a blue blood.
The crazy thing is, as I've been tracking this Shedeur story, since he was drafted, it almost has seemed like the HBCU people are really just observing, letting the Colorado and the Browns fans kind of hash these things out. And that surprised me kind of, Steve. The HBCU fans has been observing. They've been, part of the, I guess, group of people that's been tracking, because I see the names on the streams. I recognize the people on the streams, but they really haven't had a lot to say. And I just ask you, Steve, is Shedeur considered an HBCU quarterback?
Well, absolutely. But I'm going to tell you what I think is more so. I think everybody in the HBCU space has seen this playbook before. Being disrespected, not showing the grace, not giving the chance, but knowing that we just got to put our head down and just keep making a day. So I think for us, we've seen this playbook. For people in the Power Fives, they come with a certain level of arrogance, and this is the way it should be. But every one of our players that have come from where we're at, they know they had to work hard. So for us, we see a lot of Shedeur in the things we do in our everyday life, of how we have to battle to be great. So I think for us, we just kind of sit back. Now, trust me, we're going to make some noise when we see something wrong. But like I've always told people, it's up to this, man. He going to be fine. Because when them preseason games play and Dylan Gabriel is throwing balls in the back of his head and Shedeur is dropping dimes, you ain't going to be able to hide it. And I'm going to keep saying this. Money talks. And they not crazy. There's a reason why he's starting that game, too. I don't, even if all those quarterbacks realized he was going to start that game.
It's funny to me that with the limited playing time, with the limited first team snaps he's received, he's received the least amount of reps in the entire fall camp. Yet on Friday, he's named the starter of the preseason game. And I have to ask this, Steve, with knowing that situation, how did the Browns, I really would like to sit down and talk to Coach Stefanski along with the GM and see how did they come to this decision to start Shedeur on the very first game of the preseason when it seemed like that's not what they were preparing to do according to how the practices were going.
Well, see, I never, and I think Coach Stefanski, he said this, he said, you guys are reading it too much, who's first team, second team, third. He actually said that from the very get-go. And I think Coach Stefanski, out of everybody, has played this the correct way. He's never said anything negative. He said this is what guys are going to do. He said don't look too much into it. And I'm gonna say this again. For my conspiracy theory, folks, you doggone right they want Shedeur to play and start, because guess what? That preseason game is gonna get record ratings. I thought the game was at Cleveland, but it's at the Panthers. So no matter what, think about all those people, because hey, Jack State got a big crew of folks up there in Charlotte. They're gonna be in the house. You're gonna have people that's gonna call them all over that know Shedeur. So they're gonna pack that place. So I think honestly, Coach Stefanski has been the one that say, hey, we're just letting it play out.
You know, Steve, being somebody that has been part of negotiations and player acquisitions and things of that nature, there's often been said that football is political. And I think when they say football is political, or NFL is political, what they stay short of saying is that it's rigged. You understand what I mean? They don't. So in your estimation, what was the entire conversation around who's getting reps, who's not getting reps, who's playing? What were the people in Cleveland so upset or confused about? Because it became a whole thing the last 2 weeks about quarterback tracking reps, tracking completion. I've never seen anything like this in my entire time in football. And so I guess, Steve, is there some type of built-in mistrust by the fan base in Cleveland, or is it football as a whole that has some type of concern that the fix may be in?
Well, here's the thing. You said something interesting, but this is, again, through the lens. Now, if you watch the First Takes, the Get Ups, the FS1s, and all those different shows, you know what the white guy will say? Football's the ultimate meritocracy. The best player is going to play. Now, I've heard that. I've heard that way more than what you said, that the best player is going to play. So if I trust D. White Man, which I do not, but take him at this is going to prove to be true. The best player is going to play. And I think what has happened is when you're looking at Cleveland, and people got to understand, and Rocky, you and I are old enough to remember this, going back to when the Steelers were the power in that division, and they had Brian Sipe and those guys, you know what I mean, and stuff, the old Cleveland Browns and stuff like that. Cleveland has always hurt to have a quarterback. And when you see a guy that is that well known, Shedeur Sanders, you see what happened to Deshaun Watson, and you say, hey, this could be our guy. This is a guy we all can rally around. The fans clearly are buying into it. They're buying his jerseys. So you're saying, well, wait a minute. You're looking at a Dylan Gabriel. You know, you can say what you want to say about him. People believe that Shedeur is better than him. Kenny Pickett has already shown that, as they say, this is his third team he's going to be on. So that kind of lets you know what people think about him. And Joe Flacco's damn near 50. So, you know, so there you go. Lesteder Newton knows about that Bernie Kosar. Hey, man, those 2 times that they should have beat Denver and they didn't. Exactly. Going all the way back to that's almost literally when they had hope. So, again, when you're looking at this, I think what a lot of fans is just the excitement of Shedeur. And any little slight that they see is going to be blown up. So, I think a lot of us, which again, how many of us, I follow all the Cleveland Brown media. I'm talking about the real media, not the because YouTube people, I'm sorry. No disrespect to YouTube people, but they all have an agenda. They want clicks. But the Mary Kay Abbott's and people like that write for the Cleveland Plain Dealer, that watch that team, they've been pretty honest down the middle. They say, hey, we see this kid making the team, but we'll see what happens. So I think for a lot of people, and especially for the fans of Cleveland, everybody wants hope. And Shedeur is one of those guys, no matter what anybody says, Shedeur is the type of guy that people like. And people, again, and remember, people have known this kid since he was a baby, basically. So I think a lot of people forget that a lot of people have been invested in Shedeur since he's been a little child. So to see him grow up in front of us, he's like our son.
Steve, you said something that I want to push back on. You said the media, I'll put it like this, the corporate media, local corporate media, because I think there's the national corporate media and there's the local corporate media. The local corporate media, I'll disagree with you, Steve. I think they were trying to hold the line, keep the heat down for the organization itself. From going back to the draft to why they drafted the Shedeur in the fifth round, the local media was trying to keep the temperature down all the way across, right? They they were parroting, for the lack of a better word, exactly what the organization was saying, right? But if you notice, if you've been tracking, Steve, about the last 2 weeks to 10 days, the corporate local media is questioning a lot of the decisions that the Browns are being making as far as how they're dividing up reps. They weren't doing that at first.
Well, wait, but you gotta stand. But wait a minute. But I think people forget. Man, we only been in camp 3 weeks?
Yeah, three.
It's only been 3 weeks. So that's what I'm saying. You gotta say. So listen to what you said. Let's use your timeline. People were crying about reps the very first week. You can't delineate anything for week 1. We went in week 2. Now we're in week 3. It's only been 3 weeks. So I think to your point, yeah, they were probably going to say, "Hey, let's just let this train ride down the track," because of the first week. You have people losing their mind after the first week. He did this, he did that. And Stefanski's like, "Hey, bro, it's only the first week." And I'll tell you this, and anybody, again, Cowboy fans, go look at the first week. Where do you think Dak Prescott was on a depth chart the first week? Tony Romo gets hurt all of a sudden. Where do you think Russell Wilson was on the depth chart? I could go on and on about players at the first week. Again, I could tell about, like I say, Terrence Edwards. We represent Terrence Edwards. He was low on the depth chart, on the wide receiver depth chart. They had Roddy White, Brian Finner, all these guys. He worked his way up. It takes time. And again, one thing about the NFL, you know what happened? People get hurt. You start seeing things. Opportunities happen. And this is exactly what you're seeing. You're seeing the opportunity. So this is a great thing for Shedeur. The opportunities, no matter how the opportunity is there, he get on that field and ball. And I think a lot of people have said, to the point, which I like too, it doesn't matter if he doesn't make clears. He balls in that preseason game. Guess what? Somebody will ask for him. Somebody will trade for him.
Well, I think this is the product, and the guy I feel the worst about in this situation, Steve, I'm going to be perfectly honest with you. I have a considerable amount of sympathy for Dylan Gabriel in this situation, because this is generally not the situation that the third round, a quarterback drafted in the third round comes in. One, a third round quarterback who comes in is usually not projected to be the franchise quarterback or the franchise quarterback right away, let alone be in a quarterback competition with 2 established guys, NFL guys. If you draft a guy in the third round, that means you thought he was a pretty good quarterback. However, he wasn't good enough to take in the first round. You understand? He wasn't good enough to take in the second round. So third wing quarterbacks, correct me if I'm wrong, Steve, usually project as backups.
Yeah.
Or in some cases, a third round quarterback. There's, in the history of the NFL, there's very few guys like Russell Wilson who was drafted in the third round and then ended up starting game 1 of the same year he was drafted. There's not many guys in the history of the NFL to end up like that. But somehow, and I think this is the reason, because Shedeur was drafted behind him, he was all of a sudden thrust into a situation where he had to prove himself, whereas other guys who drafted as third-round quarterbacks end up not having to prove himself. I ask you, why as a third-round quarterback, he's put in a situation where he almost is forced to prove himself in this very small window that he's an NFL quarterback, when most guys who are quarterbacks who drafted in the third round get at least a whole season to kind of develop and progress?
Well, let's think about this. And I'm being facetious, but I'm almost being serious. Shedeur Sanders might be the most famous 5th round draft pick ever in the history of 5th round draft picks.
The only guy I would say, Bo Jackson, is the only guy that I would compare to that.
Well, Bo, I don't consider Bo a 5th round draft. He told Tampa he wasn't going. He was going to be the first pick in that draft. And he said, "I'm not coming. I'm going to play baseball because I want to play for y'all." So Bo did not drop because of talent. Bo dropped because I'm not coming. So the Raiders went ahead and drafted him. So I don't consider that the same. I'm talking about somebody that said, we looked at it, we evaluated it, he's a 5th round pick. Shedeur Sanders is the most known 5th round pick ever. So I think you don't have that. And I think this was part of a little bit, and I will say this, because I saw something, and this is where, you remember one of the outside noise that people said, well, if you draft Shedeur, it's going to come with a lot of noise, right? Well, I actually saw that bubble up just a little bit, because if you remember, and I think I sent this to you guys, you remember there was a quote by the owner, right? Well, what does his big brother do? Bucky makes this video that was really inflammatory towards the owner. Now, mind you, this is your brother's boss. So I'm sitting up here like, man, you really don't want to do that. Now, I know you might have your feelings, and it was really inflammatory. But guess what, though? And I went to check because I'm talking to Scotty, and I'm talking to somebody else, and I say, I'm going to send it to you. The post wasn't up anymore. So Dion probably said, hey, man, don't do that. So you got to say to your point, how many people do we have, people that have hundreds of thousands of followers, that have brothers that can post stuff that cause everybody to move like the ocean? So again, for Dillon Gabriel, yeah, he's in a no-win situation. But I'm going to say this, like when anybody, and man, this goes with anything. Hey, man, if you ball, you're going to get the call. So if I'm Dillon Gabriel, again, I'm not worried about Shedeur. I can't. I got to play my game. Because that's the only way you're going to make the team anyway.
You say you now. I understand that's easier said than done, and not because Shedeur is breathing down his neck, it's because of the attention that Shedeur is gonna get, and the only way that he can get some of the heat off of him is if that he completely outplays Shedeur, and that may not get the heat off of him because at this point the fan base of Cleveland. Even if Dillon Gabriel plays great, they're going to say somehow it may be orchestrated or he was set up to succeed because the Cleveland fans are skeptical of the organization. And I don't think it's necessarily the Shedeur situation that has them skeptical. It's the history of their franchise.
Yeah, well, the history says it. But the thing about it is, but here's the thing. Dillon Gabriel don't have to worry about the fans. He got to impress one person. That's the coach. And see, this is the thing about what people have to understand. And I think with social media, we put too much emphasis on the noise. The fans are noise. Social media is noise. Radio stations are noise. ESPN is noise. It doesn't matter because, and this goes for Shedeur, it does not matter what anybody says on that's writing something. The only thing that matters is you on that field producing. Because that is what's going to get you on the team. So for both of those young men, so again, I go back to for Shedeur. I'm not worried about what somebody's posting my stats. I could care less. One thing I'm worried about is when I walk out of practice, did I get better? Did the coach say, you know what? You got better today. That's what you want to hear. You got better today. I saw improvement. So you know what? You go in this game, I want to see improvement. You messed up here in practice. Make sure on the field you don't do that. So he does that. He makes the team. Because all you want to do is be on the team. So once you get on the team, everything is even. Point blank, period.
Now, for Shedeur, do you think the expectations for him are unreasonable for the Cleveland? And I'm going to say not only the Cleveland fans, but also the Colorado aunts and uncles that are all over Cleveland Browns social media. Do you think the expectations are unreasonable for Shedeur?
Well, let me ask you a question. When you say expectation, what are they expecting him to start day one, be an all-pro, throw for 4,000 yards?
I think what they're expecting is for him to prove far and away that he's better than Dillon Gabriel, because that's what they're into it for. They're not into it. The Colorado aunts and uncles are not really invested in how good Cleveland does. I'm gonna be honest with you.
Okay.
What they're interested in is that Shedeur proves that he's better than Dillon Gabriel and that he should have been drafted in the first round. That's their total. That's their point. Okay. And is that expectation unfair for Shedeur?
That expectation is a waste of expectation because it's over. And I will say this again. I'm gonna go Dak Prescott. You know who's the highest paid quarterback? Dak Prescott. He's a 4th round pick. So it does not matter. I think people need to get off of where he was drafted. That's over with. It's done. And all he has to do is be 1% better than Dillon Gabriel. Because that's all he needs. He doesn't need to be 20%, 50%, 100%. He just needs to be 1% better.
But see, BC, I would say I agree with you. And I agree with you for the most part, Steve. But here's what it was going on the first week of camp. When people were complaining about the reps that Shedeur wasn't getting, the corporate media kept saying, hey, guys, lay off. He's a 5th round pick. Hey, guys, lay off. He's a 5th round pick. And you know that's what they were saying. when the fans.
But the point is legitimate. He's the 5th round pick, right? So so now you know what? I actually going to reverse it. You're right. You're putting expectations on him as a 1st rounder. He's a 5th round pick. So whatever happens, like they say, most 5th round picks don't even make a team. So you're putting expectations on. Now, again, I believe Shedeur, and I think we all agree, we believe Shedeur is better than the 5th round pick. But again, it doesn't matter. Now, he's on the team. But on the flip side, no, I'm not going to treat Shedeur like he's Cam Ward. Cam Ward's the 1st pick. So it's different things that come with that. I expect Cam Ward to be different. I expect him to. But Shedeur, once again, where it's lined up, they're probably going to keep 3 quarterbacks. All you got to do is be 1 to 3. That's it. So my thing again, Shedeur has shown once again, and this is what you know what, and I like, he made a quote that I like, and I'm going to see if I can read this quote because I think I saw this. I really just pulled this up because this is one of the quotes that, go ahead. Why you doing
No. This is what I want to say. I agree, but when he starts balling in camp like he has been about the last 10 days, when he starts balling in camp, you can't each and every time bring up why he's not getting equal reps at this point or quality reps that he's a 5th round pick. Because to your point, Steve, there are no picks in camp. Everybody's either trying out the team or make the team. Those are the only 2 things that you get. It's either you're on the opening day roster or you're cut. Those are the only 2 positions that guys are fighting for at this point. And if he's on the opening day roster, then he's made this camp successful. He's done what he's supposed to do. But what happens is people are concerned, and I think rightfully so, they're concerned is he getting enough of an opportunity to make the team, considering they have 2 veteran quarterbacks, somewhat, a 41-year-old man and a guy who's, like you said, who's on his 3rd team. At this point, can we honestly say that Kenny Pickett is a journeyman quarterback? You know, this is his 4th year, but it's, you know, do you get to be a journeyman quarterback in 4 years, 3 different teams? And he has a guy that's a 3rd round pick who the franchise has been very complimentary of, talking about what kind of processor he has and how quick his mind is a computer and all this different stuff. And then you have Shedeur. To be honest with you, Steve, the Browns organization has been very tight-lipped about what they truly think of Shedeur, his work ethic, how he's doing in camp. They've been critical of his speeding, his driving, but they haven't had really much to say about how he's been playing on the field.
All right. Now, you know what? I'm going to throw something at you. So hold on. Let me give me 2 seconds.
Okay. You got time.
I'm gonna hit you with something.
Hey, at this time, man, I like to give everybody an opportunity. We're gonna take a pause right here. Please like the stream. Go ahead and like the stream. If you're not a subscriber, go ahead and subscribe. I know we got a lot of people who've come in because of the Shedeur conversation. If this is the HBCU Coaches Corner, usually hosted by the SWAC legend himself, Johnnie Cole, our co-host. However, he's not with us tonight so far. He may jump in here at any moment. He had a conflict, but I wanted to welcome y'all to HBCU Coaches Corner, and we do this every Tuesday at 8 p.m. until, I guess that would be fair to say, Steve, because we don't have a real quitting time on most Tuesdays. Hey, and just so happened that this next Thursday, that means day after tomorrow, we have a big interview scheduled with the Prairie View head coach, Tremaine Jackson, the Division II runner-up head coach who formerly coached at Valdosta State, was hired by Prairie View, and he's entering his inaugural season with the Prairie View A&M Panthers, and we're going to sit down and have a live conversation with him on Thursday at 8 p.m. Central Standard Time, 9 o'clock Eastern.
All right. So let me ask you a question.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to ask people without Googling it. I'm going to ask you a 2-part question. And you probably know the first one, but I bet you don't know the second. Who was the number 1 pick for the Cleveland Browns?
This year?
Yes, this year.
Graham.
Okay.
Mason Graham.
Who was the 2nd round pick?
Only reason I know Junk is because he got arrested the other day.
Duncan was no, he was not their 2nd pick in the 2nd round.
Oh, 2nd pick in the 2nd round?
Their 2nd pick. Who was their 2nd pick? He was a 2nd rounder though.
I don't know.
Exactly. So exactly. Have you heard anything about Mason Graham, what he's doing in practice? What what's the kid's name?
There's no tracker.
From UCLA doing?
Yeah.
You haven't.
No.
And like you say, you're about junkie, because what did he do? When he got in trouble with a girl, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. So you're the 1st round pick. Ain't nobody said nothing about. We don't know if he's dominating. We don't know if he's killing it. All you hear about. So that's what I'm saying, man. This is why the point, which is unfair to Shedeur anyway. They're putting things on him that they ain't even talking to their 1st round pick about. Now, I'm not saying Graham was not killing it, but you don't even know. Nobody knows. Nobody cares. So this is what the thing about it is, man, let's call a spade a spade. So don't put no additional pressure on this kid that you're not putting on the 1st round pick. How's he playing? How many reps he doing? And I'm going to tell you something. You know what? One of my boys, he watches the show, right? I've got several of my friends that are coaches in the NFL, right? You know, one of my boys called me. He said, Steve, you know what? I watch these shows, man. He says it's hard for me to watch these shows. He said, there's so many people that don't know football. He said, do you realize the ones don't go against the ones in practice? We don't do that till late game situations. In the beginning of practice, it's the ones versus the two, and there's not no 3 and 4s. It's a rotation out of the 2s. He said, you know, the guys that are on the 2nd team, you know who they're going against? They're actually going against the 1s. So I want you to tell people that. So he said, when you guys are doing all this tracking with Shedeur, don't get it twisted. He's probably doing that against the 1s most of the times.
Wow.
You see what I'm saying? This is the person that called me that said, I want these people to please be quiet. I'm coaching here. And I ain't going to say where he coaching because y'all might know who he is. So what I'm saying, it's like, he's like, man, tell these people to relax. They don't know how this thing works. It's not the 1s going against the 1s. So again, you play, you produce, you go, you build your next day. So the same thing, like I've said, they got a 1st round pick. Ain't nobody said, is he hurt? Is he not hurt? Is he dominating? Is he running? Nothing hurt anything. But then Shedeur, he's getting tracked every throw, every disc. He's this, all that. Fine. But you know what the thing I like about Shedeur? And this is what I'm saying. I'm going to read this quote because this quote says it all. He said, they asked him about, this process. And he said, listen, it does not faze me. You got to understand, we came all the way from an HBCU to a Power 5, and now we're here. At this point, you look around, that's a challenge. Nothing phases me. That lets you know, man, when you start from an HBCU, hey, man, listen, you didn't have it. He was at Jackson State. He produced. They say he wasn't going to do that at Colorado, right? Some people said that. At Colorado, he produced. Now people saying he's not going to do it at the Browns. He can go 3 for 3.
Yeah, you're right, man. You're right. Hey, we got our phone lines open for those of you all who want to call and have this conversation. Again, we're going to continue this conversation. What I want to do at this time, I've pasted the link in the off script and on Facebook. I'm going to end the Facebook live and I'm going to end the live on off script. However, we will continue over on the Rocky Miller channel, the channel that hosts the HBCU Coaches Corner. So I'm going to give you guys time to switch over. Go ahead and switch over. I'm not going to just cut you off. And then when you start switching over, go ahead and click 1, hit 1 so that I know you have switched over as myself and the bishop continue the conversation about Shedeur. Again, I'm really the most surprising thing that has developed, though, Steve, is that Shedeur was named the starter today for the first preseason game. And I think you said all along, Steve, no matter what happens in practice, whether he makes the team or whether he ends up being a starting quarterback, none of it was going to be decided based on what happens in practice. He was going to have to do it under the lights in front of everybody. And surprisingly, he has an opportunity to do it. right now.
I told you guys, and I'll go back and find it. I told you guys who was going to start that preseason first. I told you guys, did I not? I told you. I said, I bet you money that Shedeur is going to start the first game. Now, I don't know what's going to happen in game 2 and 3, but I said that first preseason game, they're going to start. And they are. And this is what they've done. So, again, big spotlight. And this is the great thing about it. The Panthers are going to play their guys that they need to make the team. So he's not going to be playing, as they say, the guys that's going to be FedEx drivers. He's going to be playing against guys that have to make the team. So he's going to, quote unquote, be playing against the ones or guys that they need. You know, of course, they're not going to have some of their high-end starters playing. But again, guys that's going to out there try to make a play. You got to, because you got to stand something. If I'm a defensive back, hey, man, I'm trying to go get one of those.
Steve, let me ask you this. Is this a business decision or a football decision?
It's both. It's business first, though. I always felt that was going to be they were going to start for the business part. I always believe that. But the football part, I think again, and I think Stefanski, Kevin Stefanski, I'm going to give him a lot of credit. I think, man, as they say, he slides a fox. I think he's been playing people wide all the time. And I think he has seen what Shedeur is doing. And he just kind of say, you know what? Because again, if he moves Shedeur up too fast, I think that'd be actually too much pressure on Shedeur. That he's named the number 2 already. No, let's keep him at the 4. Because again, it doesn't matter who's 1, 2, 3, 4 right now. It doesn't. So you know what he does? He lets him go. And you know what? Play it at his progress. He doesn't have to worry about the pressure. He's got to be the one. He's got to start all that. Now all of a sudden, let's start him in the game. Let's start him in this game. Now, of course, guys are hurt, things like that. I heard all that too. But I don't care. If Kenny Pickett, I still say if Kenny Pickett was healthy, Shedeur would have started that game. But of course, it's gonna be for Ray. Because you know what, too? And I'm not mad at them too. Because guess what? We all gonna be watching.
Now, one thing that a guy in the Cleveland media always said, and hey, I want to thank you all you guys that switched over. I'm about to end the live on Off Script channel. Go ahead and make sure you guys switch over on the Rocky Miller channel. So here's the deal, Steve, and this is what is interesting me is that the guy by the name of Garrett Bush. Garrett Bush is a content creator, a radio personality over in Cleveland. And he said this when people were up in arms 3 weeks ago about the reps and what was happening and all this kind of stuff and everything that's coming out of Cleveland. The thing he said, you always have to remember that football is gonna football. And what he meant by that is there's a lot of things you can control about in football, but there's so much about football that is not controllable and not predictable. And this is what I think we've experienced some of it already with both Kenny Pickett and now Dylan Gabriel having to deal with injuries.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. And you can only worry about what you can control. And man, you know, again, what I think, which is the best thing, which for Shedeur, is when you have people, and man, sometimes you need a chip on your shoulder. Sometimes, every time someone needs a reset. I'm not saying that Shedeur doesn't believe in his talent, but sometimes you need somebody to challenge you.
Absolutely.
You need to say, well, you know what? I got to work for it. Because sometimes working for a goal is better than just having the goal just given to you, right? So now he goes in. He knows that he's got to be locked in. There's no margin for it. Because I'm gonna say this, and this is no disrespect for Deion. When has Shedeur ever been in this position where he knows that he wasn't gonna start? Junior high, not junior high. It's never been a chance or time, and that's what Scott has always been his argument is that Deion never brought any quarterbacks to compete against him, right? Well, I got no problem against that. I've seen that happen with other teams that didn't bring in somebody because they didn't want competition. But now, for the first time, there's no dad, there's no incubation of this is my thing. Now he's got to do it on his own. He's got to stand on his own 2 feet. And the thing what I believe, which I give Deion credit, I think Deion has put, hey, man, you can compete against anybody. I think that Sanders arrogance works for him. Now, he don't have to say it out loud because he's, you know what I'm saying? Because it's a different situation. He ain't watching it and all that stuff. He's keeping his head down. He's making his plays. But don't you think when he shuts that door, he said, oh, I'm going to win this. I'm going to win this. And dad ain't there to hug him and walk him down the aisle. His brother ain't there. It's him. And you know what? For this time, every man needs that in his life. So I'm happy that he has an opportunity where nobody can question if he had this because it's going to be inside of him.
So what you're saying, Steve, and I never really thought about this, the process itself kind of allowing Shedeur to move out from under his daddy's shadow and be his own man. I didn't even think about that being part of this process, because I think that's important for any man to get out from the shadow of your father, walk out on your own, and create your own opportunities and become your own man. And this particular test is certainly giving him an opportunity to do so. I just honestly hope that Cleveland really understands what they have in Shedeur and they're able to utilize it. And because I honestly, after watching him for 4 years, Steve, just about every game he's ever played, I was certain that he was a top flight NFL prospect. I was certain. Because this is why, Steve. He made it look the same way at Jackson State. It looked the same way. We questioned, hey, man, it looks a little too easy at Jackson State. A freshman being that good. Then he comes in sophomore, ends up being the player of the year, comes in, goes to Colorado, struggles the first year, but then the second year kind of looks just like he did when he was at Jackson State, around what I would consider, comparatively speaking, a much less talented team. But it looked the same as it did at Jackson State from an execution standpoint, from a completion percentage standpoint. It looked the same. And so I was certain that he was an NFL prospect. A lot of people thought that the whole process of him being an NFL prospect was almost curated by his dad. How would you have pushed back on that if you were Deion, of saying that, hey, this guy was almost like created in the lab and his success was almost manufactured more so than earned?
Well, this is the thing. And I think that you want to understand this. You can say everything is manufactured, but you still have to produce on the field, right? No matter what, Jackson State, going over to Colorado, he had to still produce on the field. Those other guys on the opposite of him on the defense wanted to try to hurt him. They wanted to try to make a name off him. We saw a coach from Oregon, they doing it for clicks, we doing it for wins, blah, 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 blah. Man, he ain't said that about no other team that whole year. We understand that. But that also, to me, helps build character. So for me, I never had a problem. Listen, the only thing that I always said about this whole process, and I'll stand on this, Deion should have never been Shedeur's agent. Shedeur should have had his own, just like what Shiloh had to prove. Shedeur should have, because if he had his own agent, there would have been different conversations that would have been had. There would have been different things that would have been done. I've talked to people that are agent. I used to be an agent. I understand these things. So it would have been things that probably would have alerted him to say, hey, this is not moving in the direction. We might need to do this earlier, right? Or this is the cards we're dealt. Here's how we're going to play this hand. So no matter what, Deion incubating him, Deion putting him in this situation, no matter what, like you just said, 1, 2, 3, 4 years, he always played at an exceptional level, no matter what level it was. Because to your point, I understood the Jackson State point, they were actually, based off the level, they were more talented and talented-wise versus who they played versus Colorado, where there were several teams that were more talented than them, which was very obvious and things like that. But but once again, he produced. And like I say again, did we want him to be a first round? Listen, anytime somebody's associated with any of our schools, because even with the Travis Hunter thing, Travis played at Jackson State 1 year. Hell, I got friends of mine. I got friends of mine that went to FAMU for 1 year and that are superstars in entertainment, but they still claim FAMU. And all our schools got people, man, they were there for 1 year. Common, the rapper, he was only there for 2 years. And
Woody the Great.
He wasn't even there for 2 years. He like, Steve, I'm going to rap. You know what I'm saying? But he still claims FAMU. So even with Travis Hunter, I have no problem for Jackson State people to say, that's our guy. He started here first. The foundational bit. Deion and Shedeur, it started here first. Because that means something.
Let me ask you this, Steve, as an HBCU alumnus and somebody who loves HBCUs, when will the culture get behind Shedeur?
Well, I think they're behind him now. I think we're all behind him. I don't see anybody, because you know what's funny, and I'll say this. I think this is the mindset I've said. There were people that were upset with Deion because Deion did move out of Jackson. Deion should have moved out of Jackson the way Willie moved out of FAMU, right? He didn't. He was jumping on planes, going to Colorado. They had a championship game to play. But Shedeur and Shiloh and all those kids that left Jackson State, people had no problem with that. All those kids. And the crazy thing about it was, and I had friends of mine that had never watched HBCU football. You know, they started watching just like you, right? And then they went to Colorado. You know who the best players on the Colorado team were? Were the Jackson State guys. That was a pride thing for me, just to say, even when you recruited all the guys from all over, your best player was still the Jackson State guys.
This is a question for me. B. Field says, question for Rocky. Do you think the culture is not behind him? And if so, why not? So the deal is, watching the Cleveland content, you got to understand, that's what I've been watching the last 2 weeks. It doesn't seem like the culture is behind. It seems like they're behind him, but they're from an observation standpoint. They don't make any statements about Shedeur. They're watching the content. They're not even, because Steve, this is why I say it questioned me. Like, to question authority and the sincerity of the processes that Black men and women have to go through to be successful, that's one of the foundational aspects of HBCU culture, right? And I don't see those people, the people that I know are HBCU people, questioning the process as much as the Browns and the Colorado people are questioning the process. You know what I mean? And maybe
Let me. I'm gonna address that. So I'm listening. Technically, you're not forced to do if you're disrespecting his father. It's a whole bunch of children that I don't like their parents. So I don't know I don't have to like your daddy to like you. Okay. So I don't know what you're talking. I don't owe anybody. So no, I can like you. I'm a grown man. I know how to separate the two. And what I said was, I didn't say I didn't like Deion. I know for most of you guys, I went to school when Deion was in school. I met Deion 1,000,000,001 times. Rocky knows this. I said the way he left Jackson State, I did not like. I can say that. That doesn't mean I do not like Deion. So I want to be clear on that. So I don't know what you're talking about. I don't have to like somebody to not like somebody else. And you got people that like me that don't like FAMU. You know what I'm saying? So
and let's, as men, we cannot like the way somebody did something, but still be very fond of that individual. You know what I mean? Any of us that have kids know that we can definitely not like the way our kids have done something, but still love and appreciate our children. So I think that's the situation. Again, I think in this regard, some things, and I'll say this, Steve, some things you have to be HBCU to truly understand the level of disrespect or the level of margin, level of dismissiveness that HBCUs and HBCU culture experience, right? So for somebody who's not a HBCU guy, what Deion did in Jackson wasn't that offensive to me. But I think you have to be HBCU to really understand how offensive it was. You have to have been part of the history and culture to truly understand. Because just think about it like this, because I've thought about this a number of times over the years. Deion got an opportunity from HBCUs that he wouldn't have got nowhere else. No Power Five, no Group of Five. Nobody else was checking for Deion as a head coach. He was given an opportunity by Jackson State. And in some ways, after he won that SWAC championship, he treated Jackson State like a second-rate or a afterthought kind of situation. For him to not take the accomplishment that him and his players had done seriously enough to just not make it obvious that he was on his way somewhere else. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. That's kind of, I think, the biggest, one of the biggest issues that people have with Deion is that in that moment, after winning the SWAC championship, that Jackson State hadn't won in what, maybe a decade?
Yeah.
You know, and they win back to back, and he's ready. His job is done here, and he's ready to move on with a championship game still in the balance. You understand what I'm saying? That's what a championship game.
And that's what I'm saying. You know, again, I think, I'm going to say this again, and this is what's wrong with a lot of y'all. Social media is not real life, y'all. I keep telling y'all, I see this on Twitter. It's about 50 of y'all that argue back and forth and say mean and crazy stuff to each other. It's the same 50 people. I can literally, if I want to put a list out, and we all know who they are, and they go back. They're at FAMU, they're at Alabama State, they're at Southern, they're at Jackson State, they're blah, blah, blah. And all they do is go back. It's fake. That ain't real life. Real life is usually people that come watch this show that can understand we can have difference of opinions, but still respect and love the process. So it's the same thing. Nobody that was reading, again, I'm from Jackson. I know, I hate when people tell me how people from Jackson think. I'm from there. The point is that, and again, we're not going to get off on this because that's getting back off the topic. But the point is that when we pour something into somebody, like the people, the fans of Jackson, like you said, they gave Deion, Deion was their guy. Deion was Mississippi. And then when you feel like the way it moved, you just kind of like, I wish he would have just done it different. That's plain and simple. So we ain't going to talk about that, end of that discussion. Back to Shedeur, to that point. But my thing is, overall, I think what your initial question was, do people from the HBCU space support Shedeur? Absolutely. 100%. I want to see that young man succeed. I want to see that young man play. Because I'm going to tell you what, I'm just going to tell you from my mother, who's a Jackson State person. My mother don't say Shedeur went to Colorado. My mom said Shedeur went to Jackson State. My aunts and them down there in Gulfport, they didn't watch one Colorado game. They didn't. But I tell you what, they'll say Shedeur at Jackson State. That's what we do.
I'm so, anxious to the day that we have that Monday night game and and he says Shedeur Sanders, starting quarterback, and I wonder what is he gonna say where he's from.
Well, you know what? Even if he says Colorado, just like Travis Hunter had to put Colorado on the Heisman Trophy, it's not what people think, it's what they know in their heart. Because I think when you see all these guys in their interviews, and this is what I love about all the guys, and even guys that have left, they're not the only guys that have transferred, and moved and stuff like that. Man, it is something special when you have played and understand the passion that playing in the MEAC, playing in the SWAC, playing in the SISC, the CIAA. There's because the one thing about, and this is what I will say about this. I know, them Colorado bandwagon fans and stuff like that. We ain't no bandwagon fans. We are not no bandwagon fans. So all those people, we ride with Colorado. Let's see, do you think they're going to be riding with Colorado next year like they was when Shedeur and Travis? No, they're not. I'm telling you they're not. Now they're going to love Deion. They ain't going to be like, let me see what Juju is doing from Georgia or the other kid that came from Liberty. So, yeah, so if he says Colorado, and no problem.
Again, I have an interesting take on Shedeur and the Sanders kids, and I'll save it for a later date. But they are really well-adjusted kids, but to be rich, privileged kids all their life, all five of them are unapologetically black, and I love that about them. Now, and people, if you don't know, I'm not trying to make this a racial issue, but when I say they're unapologetically black, what I mean is they embrace their culture, they see excellence in black people, and they just exude what we consider the culture, how they move around. They're not trying to be anything other than themselves. Wouldn't you agree, Steve?
Oh, 100%. I think, but this goes back, what, and I'm going to use this again. There are a lot, I got a lot of course, men watch reality shows too, but women index more on watching reality shows. Do you know how many women watched that reality show with Deion? I think he had 2 of them.
Yeah.
That the women, again, saw Shiloh and the little girl and, Shedeur as kids, little bitty kids. And they were fans of them before they even picked up a football. Then they said, they're playing football. So you have all these women that watched them again, and from a motherly or a sister or aunt standpoint that were rooting for them. And once again, and like I say, the one thing you can say whatever you want, but the one thing about Deion, he's a great father. He loves his children. You don't see none of his children getting in no trouble. You don't see them around there doing stuff with, hey, listen, and no, look, Michael Jordan's son around there drunk driving, got illegals in his car, all that stuff. This is Michael Jordan. That boy shouldn't be doing nothing. You see what I'm saying? So it's the same thing, the same spotlight, but they're well adjusted. But this also goes to their mothers too. Respect to their mothers.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So Pilar, you know what I'm saying? So I think what they've done is that, hey, while you are privileged, you still have to work every day. And that's all that counts. You got to work every day, man. And that's why I believe why Shedeur, I think Shedeur is going to come prepared on Friday night. I think you're going to hear, because of course, you know what? I'm curious. Well, I guess it's going to be, I guess the NFL Network will probably show that game because it's not going to be on a regular TV like a ESPN or something. Because, not where they do the preseason, they read, but I'm pretty sure NFL Network's smart enough probably to show that game. So if anybody knows where that game is going to show, look it up and tell us, because I'm curious to see how that works. But my point of it, you're going to see that commentator, because usually it'll probably be the Panthers guys calling the game. That's usually how that works. But they're going to be well prepared to tell you every stat about Shedeur. Every stat. Now, Bryce Young, who they really need to play really well and is going to play in that game, almost could be an afterthought. And they need him to play well to determine if he's the guy. So let's understand this is what's great about this matchup. You've got two quarterbacks, Bryce Young, a number one pick that has not really broken through yet, had a great second half of a second season. Now they're starting to see why we drafted him instead of the kid down there in Houston from Ohio State. You see what I'm saying? He's got to come in there and play well. And you got Shedeur, who, again, as they say, moving up the depth chart, who wants to and has to play well. That's going to be an exciting first half of football, to be honest with you.
Yeah, guy. Hey, through this process, one thing I've had to accept and realize, Steve, is that Shedeur Sanders is a bona fide superstar. Whether it's based on his play on the field or his participation in those reality shows by Deion, he's a bona fide superstar. And is there a bigger story in the NFL other than where Shedeur will end up on the Cleveland Browns depth chart? Is there a bigger story?
Well, I tell you what, according to ESPN, FS1, all these YouTubers, people are clearly not. And what's funny, and I've seen this too, and again, this is not a Shedeur versus, right? This is answer your question. We had another black quarterback, the number one pick, that actually came from the FCS level, same age as Shedeur, had to go through the same hardships to move up, and he was the number one pick. You ain't heard nothing about him. Now, that's a slight to him because, once again, when we're breaking barriers, because, again, I think this is the first time that we've had back-to-back black quarterbacks number one. So, again, what Cam Ward achieved, that's a big milestone. But, of course, again, remember, to your point, Shedeur has been a star since he was little bitty.
Yeah.
Deion Sanders is a superstar. So you're talking about all generations, all different races, football fans, non-football fans. So people are invested. And I'll tell you another thing too, because of, unfortunately, some of the angles, people feel that he's been disrespected. Even some believe it's racial. That brings a lot of the intensity and energy that people have when following Shedeur.
Let me ask you this here, Cam. Though they don't mention it a lot when they're telling the Shedeur story, how much does him being at an HBCU add to his folklore as a player? Oh, man, I think, I'll tell you this. I think Shedeur was on his way to what, the FIU or FAU, right? FAU, I think, right? FAU, because Taggart had went from Florida State to FAU. Do you think Shedeur be Shedeur if he went to FAU? No. Probably not. Probably not. He comes to Jackson, as Mike Reed say, 60,000 strong. Tradition, history, black people, the sonic boom, the J-sets,
big games against Southern, big games against Florida A&M, the Celebration Bowl, Alcorn, all these games. You think anybody would care if FAU and FIU played? No. But I tell you one thing, he made his name when he played and did that comeback against Southern with Deion. What, Deion sick or something like that? You know what I'm saying? Man, you can't script that against one of their biggest rivals.
Deion was in a wheelchair.
In a wheelchair. You see what I'm saying? Jackson State is Southern, man. On a Saturday night, the boom, you know what I'm saying? The jukebox, 25,000 people, everybody watching. Hey, man, that's how legends are born. You can't make no legend out of FAU, man.
I tend to agree, though they don't mention it very much. A part of his identity and his story is rooted and rounded and kind of was born out of his existence and stardom at Jackson State. And the fact that he did exactly what he did at the Power 5 level, the same thing he did at Jackson State. Because a lot of times, for a lot of different reasons, they view HBCU football is a lower tier football. You know what I mean? Or
absolutely.
Or subpar football. And the conversation, people don't realize this. The conversation is, Shedeur's not going to be able to do what he did at Jackson, at Colorado. And to be all honest with you, he did more at Colorado than he did at Jackson when you talk about just sheer numbers. You know what I mean? And so I just think that's a huge part of his story, man. And I think that's one of the things that you will never be able to take away from his story or Deion Sanders' story at this point. Is that those 2.5 years at Jackson State? I think that those were the things that legends are made of. And I'm so glad that HBCUs and myself got a chance to become part of the HBCU community by Deion coming over. Because again, had Deion not coming over, Steve, I would not be part of this community. And I will forever be grateful to Deion, Shedeur, Shiloh, the whole Sanders family for bringing me into the HBCU culture, man, because it's second to none, it's top tier, and it's not one moment have I ever regretted being in the culture, man. Not one
Rocky,
moment.
There's two things. I want you to pull up B-Field 19, his comment, but I want to respond to what you said. You got to understand something. And this is what I tell people. When Deion rolled in that Escalade into the AAC with Tracy Edmonds, that was the first time in a long time where I said, we can start talking about football again at this level. Because, see, I grew up when we talked about football. Hey, I saw the boom, saw the Marching 100, saw that. But it was about the football when I was growing up. Because you saw legends. You saw Jerry Rice, man. You saw Walter Payton. You saw Steve McNair. You know what I mean? Michael Strahan. All these guys. Aeneas Williams. People like that. John Stallworth. NFL Hall of Famers that were going against each other. And then we had this, again, with the rise of the SEC, you had the dip down of the SWAC, dip down of the MEAC. And then it was like, oh, man, let's watch the band. That's all I would hear about. People, when you go into the game, rocking to the band. But I tell you what, when Jackson State got right and FAMU got right, people was watching the football game. Didn't nobody leave after halftime, Rocky. Because people want to see who won the football game. And that's the one thing that Deion awoke a sleeping giant. And I like now that all these teams and schools, their fans care about football. I don't hear all that band talk as much as I used to. Yeah, they still love the band, but all these people got YouTube channels. They're talking sports, man. They ain't talking to bands. And all these people that have individual YouTube channels about their teams or overall like off script that talks about all the teams, they're talking sports. And that's the way I grew up, and that's what I'm most excited about. So, I want to say that. But, Rocky, I want to get your opinion about, did you see that comment right there? How do you feel about, I want to hear what you got to say about this, because listen, Avis Heath is not here. Avis Heath said, hey, man, because he know that you love Deion and all the Sanders. So I wanted to, what was your opinion when you saw Jimmy Haslam say this? Well, his comments. And if we need to play it, we can pull it up if people don't know.
You talking about when he said the one about Andrew Berry drafting Shedeur and all that kind of stuff. So at the end of the day, I think what Jimmy Haslam is trying to do is establish credibility with his GM. He's covering for his GM. There's no way I believe that Andrew Berry made that draft pick without Jimmy Haslam's approval and blessing. Now, again, if you notice when he had those comments, he not only talked about one meeting they had, he talked about 2 meetings they had that morning. He said we had a meeting first thing when we got in, and we had a meeting later that day. And again, he had to show at some point that he approved of it or he thought it was a good idea. And they had to also think how it's going to impact their business and how it's going to impact the development of the QB they took in the 3rd round. They can say what they want to, but in my opinion, Jimmy Haslam made that call ultimately, and that's why he's in a Cleveland Brown uniform. I don't think it happens without his approval. Because
I'm gonna agree with you, but I'm gonna just play the other side just for the sake of conversation, right? Let's say that let's take Jimmy Haslam for his face value, right? I agree with you though, because I don't believe in the end, because Jimmy Haslam is actually too involved. Because I don't think people remember Jimmy Haslam was the one why Deshaun Watson got the contract he got, because he said, I want that guy. And all those other NFL owners to this very day are still pissed off at Jimmy Haslam. So let's be clear. Let's not say he's not involved in who's going to be the quarterback of that team. But I will say this, though, from a football standpoint. If you're sitting there at the 5th round, right, and that draft, and you got this pick, you got to make that pick, man. Because that's house money right there. You got to make that pick, because if you believe what some people say, this is a first-round talent, you got to take him. So if I'm Andrew Berry, just from a football standpoint, I'm cutting out all the noise. I'm looking at the board. I've got a guy that maybe I got a 2nd-round grade on, and here we go. I'm drafting him. So I think Andrew Berry, again, did put some thought in there. But I think, once again, there was a little bit of, I do believe this happened a little bit. If we take him, what is this going to bring, right? But I think also, and this is just my opinion, because we all watch all this social media. You see Deion, they said too much other than when Michael Irvin interviewed him, right? About Shedeur, right? He ain't around there. My son ain't doing this, blah, 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 blah. Deion and plus Deion's going through things. But Deion usually got something to say, right? Bucky has not, other than that one post that I told you that was immediately taken down. Immediately. Not anything said. So that circus and clown show they thought, Shedeur said, you know what? I'm here. I'm not going to be a distraction. And I think that is what they did. And I think, again, Andrew Berry, at that pick, you got to make that pick. And I think a smart pick, because I think 2 things happen, right? Either A, you got a quarterback that might be your future quarterback, or I'm going to tell Stefanski, I tell you what, build this kid up. Hell, we might be able to get a 4th-round pick for him next year.
What about this? And I want to welcome the featured host of the show, none other than my man, Johnnie Cole.
Appreciate you, man.
I know you had a conflict. Hey, I know we had a conflict. You had a conflict today, man. And but before we say anything, Coach, we got to wish you happy birthday, Coach. You had a birthday yesterday, man. As a black man, anytime you can have a birthday, it's a beautiful, beautiful thing at our age, Coach.
Yeah, I know it, man. I appreciate it, man. And I had a lot of kind words and a lot of thoughts. And I want to tell everybody thank you, man, for wishing me a happy birthday. Kind of made my day. And, man, it's just good to live another day, man, and work with you guys for this upcoming season.
Absolutely. Coach, we're right here discussing what's transpired in the Cleveland, in your neck of the woods in Ohio, about what's going on with the Cleveland Browns. I don't think they ever had this much attention put on them now that they have Shedeur. But Campbell asked me what did I think about the owner's comments about Shedeur, and I said this. Now this conspiracy theory right here, Campbell. So this is not fact. I don't know anything. The Sanders has been so quiet during this process. I wouldn't be surprised that if ultimately on that morning, because you got to remember, Jimmy Haslam met with the Sanders family 5 times during the process. If Deion didn't call Jimmy Haslam that Saturday morning and asked him, hey, what's going on? Is there any chance you can draft my son? I wouldn't be surprised at that. Not because of where he was drafted in the draft, just because they've been so quiet during this entire process since the time he was drafted, through mini camps, through OTAs, and now fall camp. And Deion has been largely positive in his comments regarding how things are going to have turned out for Shedeur, and he has confidence in his son's abilities. He hadn't been disgruntled at all, and he has a pretty bully pulpit that he haven't used one time. What do you think about that conspiracy theory, Campbell?
Well, I like it. I like it to a point because that would make some sense. But again, I still give Andrew Berry credit because I think he's a great talent evaluator, because Cleveland Browns are not short on talent. They just been short at the quarterback position because of Deshaun Watson. But you look at that team, they've drafted some good players since Andrew Berry's been there. So I still kind of lean to Andrew Berry just working his board, keeping outside noise. Hey, this is a 5th round guy that we got a 2nd round, 3rd round grade on. He's right here, not going to cost us a lot of money. Let's take him. But I tell you what, though, Jim, let me tell you this, even though, and I explained to Scott, everybody say, oh, they sold all these millions of first of all, Cleveland's only getting a small percentage of that. So Jimmy Haslam is a billionaire, billions in B's. So that couple of $1 million in them jersey sales, yeah, that's a rounding error for him. But does it look good? But I tell you what, it does look good for Cleveland. And what tickles me about Cleveland, as you say, nobody cares about Shedeur, but guess who's the first person they put on their social media? Shedeur. Because again, it allows them to make money, to promote their team and things like that. So one thing I will give them credit, they've understood the power of the Shedeur Sanders brand, and they are leaning into it all the way through.
Hey, Coach, let me ask you this. I know you coming in on this, and I just want I know what you think about him being drafted, where he's been placed, but how do you think Shedeur is being treated with all of, I guess treated wouldn't be a good word. What do you think of the opportunity he's been given at Cleveland thus far? And what do you think of the recent development that he'll be starting the first preseason game this Friday?
Well, like I told you guys way back before, I thought it was a win-win situation for him. You go into a program that needs a quarterback. He went 5th round, which it was just a money grab for him. But, he made most of his money up in social media. And it was strange to bring him on the 5th round. Maybe Cleveland, when they seen him still out there and knowing his talent, maybe they said, like you were saying earlier, Cameron, hey, they stole the guy. He went in the 5th round, but they know that this kid could play. And I think they know that. And so what they're trying to do is put him out there first, see how he's going to do, and then see what type of trade bait he can get. They might need somebody else in the war room that they've set in personnel and said they need. And, I know this because I've been in several training camps myself with Chicago, San Francisco, Dallas Cowboys. I actually been in those training camps before. So it's always a lot of moving pieces, man. And it won't be all put together until after those preseason games. So they want to put him on the spot, see how he do under pressure, see what they got. And they might be looking to, they might be somebody talking to them about the other 5th round draft kid they got there. You know what I'm saying? And then you got a couple of veterans that's sitting there as well. So, I guarantee it has something to do with either they trading or trying to trade him off to somebody else, let some people see him on film, or really considering this kid, to be the starting quarterback. and then make some moves with the guys that's backing him up.
Coach Cole, you've made these decisions, Coach, and I just want to get your opinion. Campbell is of the mindset that these decisions about who's going to start is largely made by what happens on the field under the lights. But there's been a lot of energy put into tracking throws in practice, tracking completions, incompletions, and all this kind of stuff. And you've done it, being that you've been in an NFL camp and in the college game, you don't have the benefit of preseason. What do you think? How do you think these decisions are made from a percentage-wise? Well, how much of it is what you do under the lights, and how much is it what you do in practice?
Well, in preseason, you're just trying to find a player or two. In preseason, if you got a veteran quarterback, if we speaking of quarterback, he's gonna start. Ain't no question. He's gonna be the guy that comes in, and then now you're looking for number 2 or number 3. But I think in this case, you got an older Flacco that probably gonna start the season off, and then they know that Flacco is not the quarterback of the future, and so they're gonna try to rep one of these backup guys. You know what I mean? But in other situations where they're veteran quarterbacks, I don't care what the second or third guy do. The first guy is gonna be the guy. You know what I mean? Now, if you going into the season again, like Cleveland is about, man, we need a quarterback. We need a quarterback. We definitely need one on the future. Then, yeah, all the statistics and all that stuff counts, as far as, are we going to get this guy a real good chance of having a starting job, or are we not?
Well, I think Coach Stefanski is kind of the person who kind of started this, because at the very beginning, before training camp started, he said that this is going to be a 4-man quarterback competition. That's what he said. I used his exact words. And with it being a competition, everybody, I think, was under the impression that all of the opportunities would be somehow divvied up equally. Now that we've been looking into we're seeing how the sausage is made, so to speak, there's no way you can have equal participation in each period with 4 quarterbacks. So, in my opinion, when he said a 4-man quarterback competition, what exactly did he mean?
Not when I'm paying $1 million, one man $50 million, then another man 10, and then another one 500,000. No, that man I'm paying $50 million is my starting quarterback. You know what I'm saying? And he's gonna be the guy, unless it comes from the top. That, hey, look, again, they evaluated after the season, and if they felt that they drafted 2 quarterbacks, evidently they knew that they need a quarterback of the future. So a lot of us have to do with finance as well as what you do on the football field. Now, in other positions, that's totally different. We're talking about the quarterback position now, but when you're talking about the wide receiver position, I've seen kids that ain't even on the roster. I mean, my college roommate, Daryl Colbert, who now works at Prairie View A&M, came into Kansas City Chiefs as a free agent, and next thing you know, he makes the top 6. And then he moves on, the alternating side to actually play. And at that time, shoot, he was making probably about $100,000, $150,000. And they let guys go that was making way more than him. So I think in other positions, when you're talking about other positions, I think that what Coach Campbell, Bishop Campbell said is true. You can get out there and you surprise the guy. Look at the guy at the Dallas Cowboys, the little punt returner. I can't call his name right now. The little guy, he wasn't on nobody's radar, but he was so explosive and he was so dynamic. Now he's a shoo-in over at the Cowboys. So I once again, I think in different positions, I think a guy coming in, an unknown guy coming in, can really, really stir up the pot and actually X a guy out that's making a whole bunch of money.
But what about a guy like Shedeur Sanders, who's not unknown? who is extremely famous, and you are having an open quarterback competition.
Yeah. Well, they gonna put him on the spot. You know what I'm saying? And they want to find out quick. Is this or can this guy be our guy? Or I think they put him on the spot and let the other team see him to see if he's good trade bait as well. That could be it as well. So you just don't know unless you're in those rooms.
Now, I didn't even think about the trade bait opportunity.
Yeah.
One thing that's clear to me, though practice is going to be closed tomorrow, it's going to be a closed practice between the Carolina Panthers and the Browns. I would assume that Shedeur would get the lion's share of the starts. But what do I know about NFL practice?
Yeah.
They've defied everything that I even thought about NFL practice in this 2 weeks that I've been closely watching the Cleveland. He may not get any reps and end up starting.
So this is not a preseason game. It's just practice.
No. So tomorrow they're having an inter-squad scrimmage, a closed inter-squad scrimmage in between the Carolina Panthers and the Cleveland Browns. I think they're having it Wednesday and Thursday, and then they're having the preseason game on Friday. So I was wondering, I assumed that he would get the majority of the reps the next couple days to prepare him for the preseason game. But I'm not sure that that's how it's going to work. I'm just making that assumption.
Okay.
But do you think it would, if it were a regular season game, he would be getting the reps to get prepared for the upcoming game. With teams not typically game planning for preseason games, I don't know how that's going to work.
Yeah. I think, like I said, Shedeur is in a good position. I know some people think it's not. I look at it kind of different. Again, I look at him in a quarterback battle, a quarterback situation, and don't think that people in these 32 football teams don't think that this kid can play. This kid will be playing in the NFL somewhere. It's just a matter of when and where that he can get and get comfortable. It's a lot of fanfare around him. It's a lot of in the window stuff around him. And, he just got to be able to settle down. I think the big mistake, he made a big mistake when he was speeding in the car. That wasn't good at all for him. Not necessarily just him, for the people who was driving on the street where he was. So, hopefully he's put that behind him. He's staying focused. And, Deion's been in that situation. I'm pretty sure he has a farm of people around him that's been in those situations, man, that keep him calm. I like Shedeur. I like how he's gravitated to his family and have accepted being a Sanders. He understands that there's doors been open for him, to walk through. But the good thing about him, he knows, that's the door just to get me in. I got to keep myself in. So I always like how he handled himself. And, I look for big things from him, whether it's at the Cleveland Browns or any place that he go.
All right. Hey, Coach, you getting here kind of late, and I want to go ahead and move the conversation. We're going to have this conversation that we're having. This has been all the rave in the last couple of days in the HBCU space. Let me bring everything up for you, Coach. This here Blue Bloods tier. All right, Coach. Now, you and Campbell, I really don't have much input on this. I'm learning in this space with you guys. I can't really comment one way or the other because this particular tier system that they've come up with is based over the entire history of these programs. And I'm not as well versed at that as you guys. So when you see this, and either one of you guys can respond, what pops out at you guys when you guys look at this? You're muted, Campbell.
No, Coach, you go because you just got here. I definitely want to hear from you on this.
It depends. Now, you said the entire career, or are we looking at the last 40 years? You know, and I could say the last 40 because I came in the SWAC in 1981, or really 1980, when I took my visits and stuff to Texas Southern. You know, Grambling, of course, you know, it goes without saying, Florida A&M. And see, I could go all the way back to the 50s. I mean, in the 40s, I mean, in the 60s. But I'm pretty sure that people don't want to go back that far. I know Florida A&M. I talked with Walter Highsmith up behind Jay Gaithers. They had three teams. They had the blood, sweat, and tears. You know, of course, Campbell knows that well, being at Florida A&M. Jackson State, you know, they really turned into a powerhouse in the 80s. You know what I mean? They wasn't as strong as people think, you know, back in the 60s. You know what I'm saying? But I mean, you know, from the 80s, the 90s to now, they definitely have and can sit there and no question. Uh, Southern, I couldn't see Southern is not a number one tier. You know what I mean? They really start winning, and that's why I'm asking you and putting that out there of how far you want to go back. They didn't start winning like that till Pete Richards showed up in 19 until 1993, and he had 17 winning seasons, several SWAC championships, several national championships. I coached on one of those. You know, so I probably would move them down to a 2 tier because of my history. Let me say that. Uh, uh, I can't see the other one. What was that? South
South
Carolina
Carolina
State?
State.
No question. No question. They've been good a long time. You know, and dang, oh, okay. Alcorn State is a tier two.
Tier one. They're on the second tier, but it's tier. They call it the blue bloods, coach, and then tier two.
No,
I mean
no,
tier
sir.
one. Tier one.
No, no, sir. No, sir. Alcorn, I don't know if you remember this, coach, in the early uh um 80s, I mean the early 2000s, they went 0-11 and 1-10 and under Coach Walker, I think it was, they were terrible. Alcorn was terrible all through the 2001, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. They didn't jump around. And let me take that back. And then when Marino was there in the 80s, they won, but they only won one championship then. They were pretty tough. That was during my years. They were average. I don't think they're tier one. I think they're tier two. I think that's where you got them at.
Yeah. They're in
Yeah,
the
yeah,
second tier.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah. North Carolina
So
A&T, you know, that fell off
second
a lot. Yeah. Uh, um, who was
Tennessee
that?
State.
Tennessee State. Woo! Tennessee State, man, wow. I mean, in the 80s they won. They were 11-0, 11-0, 10-1, 9-2. You know, they used to kick butt and take names. And then they got into a conference and in 1990 and they had 9 losing seasons until my brother got there, and then of course he won 2 conferences that year, and then they've been kind of so from once he left till now, you know. So yeah, I would say that. You know what I mean?
What
But
about
I don't
Hampton?
know.
Hampton is next.
Uh, where they been? You know, where they been? Somebody gonna have to give me some history on them. Heck, you know, they not no tears. I remember when I was at Texas Southern, shoot, we beat Hampton in the 80s. So no, I don't, and unless somebody from the MEAC can tell me different.
Now,
I
now
don't
this
see
next
Hampton.
one, now this next one surprises me. Alabama State. I didn't expect them to be up that high up there.
Alabama State won one national championship back in 1990, and after that, they had 9 losing seasons. And again, until Coach Cole, my brother, took over at Alabama State and got them on the winning ways. We won 2 East Division championships. Then we were let go, and then they brought Coach Cole in. He won an East Division championship, went to the conference championship, lost. Then the next year, he came back and won it. And then after that, Barlow went up there and he got into the championship game, which of course, he lost to me at Texas Southern University, and since then, Alabama State just been a team. You know, they came from Division II. You know, without where Alabama A&M was. You know, so no, I don't believe they are tier two when you talk about history. You know what I mean?
Okay.
I don't believe that.
So
You know,
now we have on tier with on the third level, we're talking Alabama A&M.
you're looking at Division II Alabama A&M. You know, they always just had good teams, but never championship teams. You know, they made a championship run twice with Coach Anthony Jones, and he ended up losing. You know, just one out of the last shoot, man. It's been the last 30 years, you know, but A&M was good when they was in Division II under Coach dang, his name is I'm looking at his face, but I'll get to it. So they North Carolina Central as well, Division II. I remember I interviewed for a job in North Carolina Central where Larry Little was at, and they were mediocre, and then they gave it to Rudolph. They were mediocre. Uh, they didn't get good till Broadway took over, you know, and that was what, Campbell, 20 years ago maybe, when
Yeah,
Broadway took over,
yeah.
and then of course came behind him was the guys at Kennesaw now. The Howard Bison. No, no, no. They ran one good year and went in the 90s with Jay Skywalker, man, and I think they jumped in the championship game what a couple years ago. But then again, you know, I wish we could have some measurements, you know, of how many championship games, how many national championships, you know, winning record. You know, that could help us out a lot. Besides, because a lot of these teams that we put up there is because of name. Prairie View A&M, one SWAC championship in 50 years. They're tier 3. They won one SWAC championship in 50 years. Come on.
And then Bethune-Cookman, they're right beside Bethune-Cookman.
Right beside Bethune. Because if that's the case, Bethune should go to the second tier. Because when Brian Jenkins was there, they won several MEAC championships, or tied. They were there. They won more championships than Howard, Tennessee State, and we're talking about conference championships. Tennessee State has won 3 conference championships, but of course their history is strong. They won 3 conference championships since they've been in a conference. 2 was 98, 90, 99, and then one just this past year. You know. All right, going on down to the bottom. That's kind of an easy to call.
Delaware, Morgan State, Norfolk, your beloved TSU, and Arkansas Pine Bluff.
Now you could argue the point of Arkansas Pine Bluff coming up and taking Prairie View's place. Of course, Prairie View had a 0-88 losing streak.
They should be at the bottom, Coach. That's the thing that surprised me, because I do know some of the history of Prairie View and involves 0-88. How they are not at the bottom tier, I have no idea. But I'll let Campbell go through his now
you know Pine Bluff have won 2 SWAC championships in the last 15 years. 2. They won 2 SWAC championships. You know what I mean? But they was a Division II program as well. You know?
I thought they were NAIA.
Yeah. Well, that's where they started. Yeah, then they went to Division II. So that's where I'm at. And that's why I'm saying it depends on how far you want to go back.
Well, I think one of the things, and Coach, I like what you're saying, how far I go back, but I think the go back is the part of the building of the foundation, right? So when you're looking at the Gremlins, you're talking Eddie Robinson, Jake Gaither, Bob Hill, Big John Merritt, W.C. Gordon, Ace Mumford, and then, of course, Willie Jeff and those guys, South Carolina State. There's a foundation, because one thing about a blue blood, if you just say Alabama, right, you say Ohio State, the reason why they get blue blood there because decade after decade, there was a level of consistency of winning. So when you're talking about not just a 10-year span. You're talking about 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, all the way to 2000. Now, every school has, to your point, a dry period. But when I'm looking about, as they say, their history of football. So when I look at this blue blood tier, absolutely, Grambling, like I said, first of all, they got the most SWAC championships. So right there, you got the legendary Eddie Robinson. I told somebody, I had a conversation with Johnnie Thornton called me today, and he's like, I don't know why people are talking about these blue bloods. I said, well, you went to Central, you wouldn't understand this conversation. Grambling is people don't understand, Grambling is still recruited off of Eddie Robinson. That lets you know how much of a blue blood and that legend is. So that's their stat. FAMU, once again, the gate the years. You're talking about the Older Blocks Classic where they played the best of the best. Won a lot of them. Jackson State beat them, I believe, in 62 for a national championship. We're talking about the school that won the first FCS championship. You're talking about one of the only HBCUs that actually won playoff games. Okay, then you're talking about Jackson State. One of the things I think is also important when we're talking about Blue Bloods is the amount of players that they produce. Talking about Jackson State with all the Hall of Famers, all the NFL players, legendary coaches, 20 SWAC championships. And you're talking about, again, winning through the 60s. Not as much as the 70s, coach said, 80s, 90s, a little bit in the early 2000s, had a dead period in the 2000s, now back again in the 20s. So, again, that longevity. Same thing with Southern. Southern, coach, I think that's the one I think everybody that knows football kind of look at because there's gaps in Southern. You got the great Ace Mumford that set the standard. Then Southern got kind of quiet, then came back with you saying Pete Richardson. But one thing what Southern has been interested about, they produce a lot of NFL players. They've won SWAC championship, but the thing, they have not won as many national championships overall through their course of their history compared to
I just thought it was a big period between I think it was 34 years when I was with Pete Richardson and we won a SWAC. I think the last time they had won a SWAC, I want to say in the 60s or the 70s when we got there. So that's why I was saying they had a long time.
Southern, out of all these, can say, then of course, I mean, what can we say about South Carolina State?
Can I interrupt you for one thing?
Yeah.
Because you're about to do it. Southern ain't none of these.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You talking about 5, 6, 20 championships. Southern ain't none of those. Now, when you talk about fanfare and band and all that, that's a whole total difference. But I don't think they should be on that top tier. But go ahead. I'm sorry.
So you're talking South Carolina State, 19 MEAC championships, national championships, 4 Hall of Famers, legendary coaches, consistent winning all the way from the 70s all the way on. So again, when you're looking at, but I'll tell you the team that I think, now Coach, I know you said they had a little bit of drama, but I think they still hang on. I think Tennessee State should be on that blue blood list. And the reason why I say that is because they still, even to this very day, have produced the most NFL football players out of all HBCUs. You're talking about, to your point, they couldn't win conference championship because they were independent, but they played everybody and beat everybody. It didn't matter. Right. Hey, Tennessee State was there, and they showed they beat the best of the best. So one of the things about it is, wow, they've had some slow time, but look what happened. You got Eddie George, who brought them a conference championship. So again, what I'm talking about, the sustained excellence. That's what's considered a blue blood. I moved down to the next tier. I moved Tennessee State up. Now, I'm like you. I move Alabama State down. I don't think Alabama State has the legacy and the longevity to be a tier 1. I think Alcorn, because they have won national championships, they've had strong championship runs in multiple decades. I think, Coach, to your point, won championship in the 80s, had some down years. But I think that's where we can kind of leave them because they did have some high highs, because that's what they're saying. When you talk about rich legacy, multiple titles, and strong regional recognition, using their definition. Okay, I think the person that came late to the party, and I think they've got a very schizophrenic resume, is North Carolina A&T. North Carolina A&T is one of the schools that had strong runs, but a lot of lows. So again, when you look at it, national championships, Celebration Bowl era, they won the most Celebration Bowls in the Celebration Bowl era. They won MEAC championships. They produced some NFL players, but they've had some down times. So for me, I'll leave them there. But again, barely touched it because I think that blue blood and tier 1 is actually a bigger gap than when you look at it just if you say this, and this. The tier 2 level, I thought this was interesting about the tier 2 level. Coach, you talked about Alabama A&M, some good times. Central was one of the ones that I think is a strong tier 2 because of the coach and coaches that they've had there. And they've won championships. And now they're back in relevance with Trey Oliver. Howard, I'm like you, Coach. I don't think Howard was a tier 2 team. I don't think they have the resume. They have won a national championship, but they have not been a consistent team where you can go decade in, decade, saying point to a team here and there.
They were terrible before Steve Wilson came there. They were terrible. And then they won them 2 years, and then they fell back off. You know what I mean? How would it just? I just don't see them once again, just a history of championships.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? A history of sending a lot of guys to the pros. A history of great coaches coming out of there. I just don't see it.
Yeah, I think JD and CJ. That's the reason why JD. So JD says Southern has left. JD, that's the reason why I keep Southern there, because the amount of NFL players that they produce. But I think one of the things too, which goes to the point, Southern has had a long stretches of sometimes not winning conference championships. And I think the Jack State people argue, say they won more conference championships in less amount of time than Southern has, because Southern has been in the conference longer than Jack State has. But I still, for me, this is for me. Like I say again, this is what I like about this. This is just for us to have a conversation about, to talk about our schools and things like that. Prairie View A&M, well, Coach, we had a great show. Lionel, we did a show on Sunday, and those Prairie View people. And the thing about it is, like you said, and I asked Lionel one question: when was the last time you won a SWAC championship? They only have one in the last 25 years, and I think what you went back and talked about that. Prairie View again. Yeah. The strong history at the beginning in the 50s and 60s, of course. Right. But then once again, when you move all the way through, bad decade after bad decade after bad decade. So to me, honestly, I would have Prairie View. Unfortunately, I would have them at tier 3, because you just can't have an 88-game loser streak and be a tier 2. I'm sorry.
Right.
Bethune-Cookman, I think, could argue a point to move up to tier 1, but I think what has hurt Bethune-Cookman is actually being in the SWAC. I think because a lot of people thought Bethune-Cookman would be better coming into the SWAC, because I don't think a lot of people don't understand. But Bethune-Cookman had a 15-game winning streak versus the SWAC before they came to the SWAC. So they thought they were going to have a lot of success. They had won several MEAC championships. I think they're 4th in all MEAC championships. They had a nice run where they beat FAMU 9 out of 10 times. So you're looking at there. And then tier 3, of course, these are schools: the Delaware States, the Valleys, Norfolk, Morgan State, Texas Southern. Coach, like I say, you're the one that gave Texas Southern their championship, UAPB. But the one thing I do want to say, one of the schools that I think we do have to look at was Earl Banks with Morgan State early in the 60s. They were a power. They did win national championships. They had a legendary game against Grambling. So, but again, when you're talking 67 and 2000, you got to leave them on that tier.
Yeah, they had some great players. Willie Lanier for the Kansas City Chiefs. They had some great players out of Morgan State. But I think Southern should go down to a tier 1 with Alcorn, push Alabama State on down. Somebody got to give me some history on Hampton. I just don't think they're tier 1 as well. They just, I don't remember them ever being a powerhouse where they're competing for the MEAC championship every year. You know, I don't see that. I don't even know when the last time they won a MEAC championship. It's been a while.
Yeah.
So I think those guys should come down. Southern, it's just, you know what people say Southern is blue blood? It's because of their attendance. They've been one, 2, or 3 or in the top 5 in attendance of their games in the last 40 years, you know, because they sitting down there in Baton Rouge in that one light town, I should say, and, you know, across the town is LSU. I think they do a good job of drawing people into that stadium.
I think one of the things, and this is what I was talking about, and I'm going to be excited to talk to the coaches that are coming through for the season. But I think one thing, and this is for Southern, I think Southern fans, to your point, Coach, they got to break through. They haven't had a breakthrough in so long. And you got to say in the Celebration Bowl era, there's no breakthrough. Then you got to look back when the last time they won a SWAC championship, and then you go back to Pete Richardson. So those are things I think the name carries them, which is we're not arguing with Grambling. Is Grambling name just carrying them since the last time they won something with Fobbs? And now they're starting to get in that era where now of mediocrity. I think the one thing I will say, and I think Brian and them did a great job on Sunday, they literally had the breakdown of every decade. I think Southern was the only school that had a winning record every decade from like the 40s on, a winning record overall through the decade. So I thought that was pretty impressive that they did have it. So that maybe plays into it because once again, tradition, consistent winning. And I think also, Nate, because I'll tell you this too, I think a lot of people, when you talk of blue blood, I think people consider the University of Michigan a blue blood. They don't have a lot of national championships, but they're considered a blue blood. But to your point, Coach, if I'm going to use them on to the point with comparing Michigan and Southern, Michigan, the big stadium, the big house, the names and stuff like that, the Heisman Trophy winners. But when you start matching them against other blue bloods, they don't have as many national championships.
Well, when I had Reggie Flood on the show, I asked him the question of who are considered blue bloods. Of course, he's a Southern alumnus. He left out South Carolina State and Jackson State and add Tennessee State into the four blue bloods. And he said the reason why he left Jackson State out is because they were an irrelevant franchise. They were an irrelevant school up until the 70s, the 60s or 70s or something. He said they didn't have any measure of success until the 70s, I want to say, he said. And that's why he left them out. Of course, A.W. Mumford had a run of 30 years at Southern. And so, but they did have the dark ages at Southern as well. So I understand that really it could be that JSU and Southern are jockeying for, they got a situation where they both have they can ding one another as to why either of them shouldn't be in.
I'm okay. I'm gonna take that argument. But first of all, Jack State played for championships in the 60s because they played for MU, so I can talk about that. Jack State's got more NFL players that they produced. Jack State has more Hall of Famers that they produce. Southern's got what, Coach? They got 3 now, I believe. Yeah. They've got 3. And Jack State has 4 and probably should have 2 more with Jimmy Smith and Harold Jackson. Should be Hall of Famers, probably end up in the Hall of Fame, so that's 6. So when you look at that and then you look at the run, because again, Southern and Jack State have the same amount of SWAC championships. Okay, so
Jack State won 8 in the 80s.
Right. So you're talking 20, and now they've won 4 in the 20s already. So when you start saying that, I don't know about that. I think that's a little bit of that Southern Jack State rivalry that go back and forth a little bit. And did you say he said South Carolina State shouldn't be there?
I believe he said Tennessee State instead of South Carolina State.
But South Carolina State is the most disrespect, because this coach, and you're going to understand this, we have a lot of people, and I'm telling you, SWAC people are very ignorant of MEAC football. I'm just being honest with you. And no disrespect to Coach Flood, because I know he played a thing like that. But there's no way that you can't say South Carolina State, 4 Hall of Famers, all those national championships, conference championships.
Now, I may go back and listen to that, and he may have said South Carolina State. But I know he left Jackson State out of the mix, and I know he put Tennessee State in the mix. He may have had 5 in there, but I have to go back and look. So I don't want to attribute something to him that's not.
Tennessee State put a whole bunch of people in the pros as well.
But that's what they put in the most. So that's what I'm saying. When you start looking, when people start talking about blue bloods, again, you're talking to sustained success, historical significance. That matters. When you, again, that your name does matter. Again, that's why I use Grambling with the G. That historical. That's how you become national influence.
So let me ask you this: would it be fair if we just go, instead of having 5 slots, we go 6 slots and put Tennessee State up there at the top level, and then we have to put 5 at each one of these other levels? And so would that work?
Well, I think the level is the level. Coach, go ahead. Go ahead.
One of these things, most of these guys was Division II schools too. Some of these guys was Division II in the 70s and some of the 80s, like North Carolina Central, Alabama A&M, Alabama State. I think Hampton was Division II. Some of these schools didn't come. Norfolk, I knew, was Division II. Morgan State, I think, was Division II. So Pine Bluff, I know, was Division II. So some of these schools just start really coming into the Division I house, in the mid to late 80s.
Okay.
Well, Coach, one of the arguments that people, and this is one of the things to your point, because Coach, you remember this, because remember because FAMU, when we won our championship, we won the SIAC, but that's when everybody was in that big pool. You remember? When the FCS first started, it was the one and get it coach, whatever the designation was, everybody was still in the same pool, even though we were in the SIAC compared to the SWAC. But we still played Jackson State in the FCS in the semifinals to go to the finals. So that's the thing about it. When you sit back, and again, when I find this fun, again, I know, it's always biased when you have people, because I think the MEAC, I know a lot of Jackson State people are outraged, because some people say, oh, Jackson State should be a blue blood. And I'm just like, and I'll say this, Coach, you're going to understand this. This is no disrespect to what I'm about to say, but you have to have a certain level of knowledge and length of time to know what you're talking about. You can't sit back there and say, I know what a blue blood is if you only been around 15 years.
Yeah.
You don't have enough depth of knowledge to make that statement. So that's what some of these people, some of the younger people that are, I heard people about FAMU. I'm like, there's no way that if you don't say FAMU is not a blue blood, then you don't know black college football, point blank, period. Because if you're living it, because I heard, well, FAMU didn't win a championship, this, or whatever. Blue bloods are built overall through their history of time. And the one thing that FAMU trumps everybody is they won an Astro championship that nobody else has won, point blank, period. They won. And the consistency of the decades. We just won a black championship 2 years ago. So again, when you sit back and say that, well, my school won a couple, like I'm gonna use A&T. I have to pick on A&T. You had a run for 5 years. That's not sustained excellence. Sustained excellence, again, is the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, the 2000s, 40, 50 years.
A&T, that was a Division II. They used to get it handed to them, before Bill Hayes came through there. You know what I'm saying? They were terrible.
Let me ask you this, because just for history, is there any Division II program that could go in any of these tiers?
Tuskegee, 100%.
Yes.
Tuskegee,
Alabama. Yeah.
Tuskegee.
Ain't no question.
Yeah.
Central State of Ohio. They
national championship, and coaches know this. And I'll tell you this for the Jackson State people, the reason why those years that you didn't get named national championship is because they voted Ohio Central State national champions.
Yeah.
3 of those 4 years that Jackson State
Albany State, they beat me out for a national championship. And hell, I had Rutgers on my schedule. And they end up making them black college national champs. Albany State used to hand it out. So there's some Division II programs that play great football.
And Rocky, and let me tell you this, and this is what's so funny, and Coach, you know this because you coach down there. The people at Tuskegee will tell you with a lot of arrogance, we are way better than Alabama State and Alabama A&M. And Coach, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm pretty sure that I think they have a winning record against both of those schools. Am I not right?
You correct. And see, look, Tuskegee beat me 3 times. So Tuskegee definitely would be a blue blood program. Hey, look, you could put them up there right now. Now I know they ain't playing, really up to par right now. How it used to be, but Tuskegee don't won a whole bunch of championships.
So again. So, Rocky, and I just looked it up. So you're talking about black. So here's the, and again, this is where the thing, where I think a lot of people, and I want to make this point too. When the championships, until the playoffs started and until Celebration Bowl, it was always voted on. So there was never a championship on the field was voted on. So just looking quickly, you're talking Tennessee State, they've got 16 national championships. FAMU's got 16 with the FCS championship. Gramble's got 15. Tuskegee's got 13. And I think we got some other people who say they've got 11 championships. So I never discount how people say the championships come because we didn't have a playoff system.
What does South Carolina State have?
Let me see. I think South Carolina State has 9, I believe. Let me see.
Just for context. That's, But it's pretty clear, Coach, you wouldn't be happy with the Blue Bloods list without including South Carolina State, Coach. Is that correct?
Who, me?
Yeah.
No, I would more say Southern than South Carolina State. I mean, shit, when you talk about the MEAC, South Carolina State is mentioned.
No, what I'm saying is you would prefer them to be on the Blue Bloods list. You think
South
they
Carolina?
should be on the yes.
Oh, yeah, without a doubt. Without a doubt.
Rocky, they're saying that South Carolina State has 6.
Is there any of those lesser schools that has any more? Alcorn, A&T, Tennessee. Well, we know Tennessee State is up there and probably should be listed as a blue blood.
Yeah, and that in Tennessee State.
Let me ask you this: How does Hampton get on that tier?
Look,
And Alabama State, for that matter.
Yeah,
I don't think Hampton. I don't think they belong on that tier. I don't think, and definitely somebody put in the chat about the number of MEAC championships but Alabama State definitely doesn't have that pedigree. If you want to compare to, I think somebody put in here how many. I saw Hampton in there. They say Hampton has 7 national championships. I'm going to check that in 19 conference championships. That might be true on the 19 conference championship, but of course, there's a lot of co-championships in there. But Alabama State definitely doesn't have that. If you want to compare those two, I can tell you that right now. We all know Alabama State doesn't have that.
no, not at all. Or Alabama A&M, but the Alabama A&M got a lot of Division II championships.
So that's the thing. Go ahead, Coach.
And North Carolina Central, they didn't get strong until Coach Oliver came through there. At least, from the 80s and 90s. But when Coach Oliver came, he kind of rebuilt that thing. So because they were Division II.
I think one of the things that when people create,
I'm sorry, and I can't leave out Coach Broadway.
Yeah,
I can't leave out Coach Broadway. He won a national championship there at North Carolina Central as well.
I personally, again, people call me and I won't mention the names because they kind of got upset with me, and they were like, "Oh, why are we talking about this divisor?" I think this is great. If white people do this all the time, right? They do this all the time. Who's the blue bloods in college football? We know those names, stuff like that. We should take pride in our blue bloods and our programs and things like that. They have a strong tradition, a strong lineage. I think when you can look back in your past, Coach, and you know this, you've been on championship teams. How many times listen? I'm pretty sure somebody, when you coach down there, something, we got championships up here at Southern. Somebody pointed out, I know they do that at South Carolina State because I saw Chennis Berry literally do that on a video saying this is the standard. The standard is the standard. The standard doesn't become a standard unless you do it consistently. So I think when we're looking at these teams and blue bloods and people saying what's not, I think, again, goes back to my point. You got to have some depth of knowledge. And again, you can't be here around here 10 or 15 years to sit back there and say that because then, to your point, Coach, you might have caught a team in a dry spell. You know what I mean? If you watch Jack State and FAMU in them 2000s, you know what I'm saying? It was rough sledding for those programs. You know what I mean?
Well, this don't put no school, and I hope nobody is taking it there. This don't put no school over another school. They all are great schools. We got to keep our eye on that. Because when you start talking about the academics, what's a blue blood and what's a tier 1 and it's a tier 2, we're gonna be shuffling a whole bunch of these schools around. You know what I mean? And all of them are great. You know what I mean? But the thing about it is when you start looking at how many coaches each school had, it'll tell you some things. Grambling, Eddie was there 40-some years. Jackson State, they don't change coaches much. Florida A&M didn't. Rudy Hubbard, Jay Gaithers, you know what I mean? Southern turned over a whole bunch of coaches. South Carolina State, Buddy Pugh was there, 20 years, coach? Alcorn had a set of long-standing coaches. A&T moved around again. Tennessee State, they had John Merritt, and then they had Gillum, and then they had William Beal, and then they start jumping around a little bit, with coaches. So a lot of times you can see some of these schools, like my school, Texas Southern. Shit, I mean, I think we up to like 17, 18 coaches. You know what I'm saying?
Let me ask you
guys. They got y'all down there tier 3.
Yeah.
Let me ask you guys. Let me ask you guys this. I'm just going to ask for the blue bloods in this regard because I think this is important for anybody who is looking at HBCUs, looking to send their children there, whatever, coach, give me 5 schools, either one of y'all give me 5 apiece, that you guys would consider blue blood academically.
Well, that ain't fair. 'Cause I ain't been to all of them. I mean, I ain't gonna say I've been to all of them. I haven't been to all of them, but it depends on what you're trying to go to the school and get. But I get it. We can name 5 because I mean Texas Southern. 75% of African American lawyers in the state of Texas come from Texas Southern's law school and pharmacy school. Another 74% come from their pharmacy school. And I'm pretty sure some of these other schools have some great things. Prairie View, uh, they generate engineers and nurses. Tennessee State, they generate teachers, and I mean, you can go on and on and on. So I think that's gonna be a thing about have you been through there? Maybe we can look at some things to see. I know North Carolina Central used to have an all women law school, number of women. You know what I'm saying? And now since then it's changed, and they don't produce some of the best. You know what I mean? So, and then you can't say enough about Howard. Jesus Christ. You talking about movie stars, doctors, man, great school to go to.
So let me say this, because I'll do it like this. Can we go with FAMU and Howard definitely being blue bloods? Do both of you guys agree with that?
Okay, I want to say this. Well, no, and I think I'm gonna hold on, Rocky. I'm gonna go with Coach because let me tell you this, and the reason why I'll say this. Every one of these schools, and the coach knows this, and Coach actually just did where I like where he's going. Every one of these schools has a school that's top ranked in a certain specialty. So again, when you're talking about Southern was known for nursing. You know what I mean? You're talking about Jack State, they were known for computer science. You're talking about Tuskegee, they were known for engineering. You see what I'm saying? So when you start moving around, because again, a lot of these schools, again, Jack State was known for, like Coach, many of these schools, excellent teacher colleges. You know what I'm saying? So for me, Rocky, and I've always been like this because, again, we again, the FAMU thing, we brag different, number one this, but I also know the mission statement of Alabama State. I also know the mission statement of North Carolina A&T. So what I will say, every one of those schools, which I think this is the best thing, has a program that they can say will go heads up with anybody else's program. Because again, I think if you look at a University of Georgia or Florida, they've got certain programs that are strong and certain ones that are weak. You see what I'm saying? So I think overall, each one of our schools, so that's the only way I'm going to answer that, because I'm not going to, I hate, especially because I have people that went to Jack State. There's no way I'm going to say Jack State education is better than a Southern education or a FAMU education, because I know what a Jack State education did. I know what a FAMU education did for me. I know what Texas Southern education, look what it did for Coach. You know what I mean? So
one of the things too is when you talk about what is the biggest school population wise. I know when I was in school, and 20 years after that, Texas Southern was the largest one campus. And then of course Southern came and got one in Bossier City and in Baton Rouge. I know North Carolina Central bounced up there a couple of times, but I knew Texas Southern led, everybody in attendance, back, enrollment,
Not
brother.
enrollment.
Yeah, from the 80s to 90s, and I know they fell off a lot, and I know A&T increased, but football made them increase. You know what I mean? And they can say what they want, and I'm not taking nothing away from A&T's academics, but when they went on that road, Coach, everybody wanted to
helped.
be.
But see, I don't
Everybody
think
wanted to
that's
be an
not a
Aggie.
negative. That's not a negative.
No, it's not. Everybody wants to
and
be
they
an
get
Aggie.
upset about that, but that's a positive. Actually, it did expose. You got, because I'll tell you this, and the reason why I'll use an example. Florida State was a backwater school. Backwater. Deion them got there start winning. They went to 35,000 kids. When I got there, they might have been right under 20,000. Okay.
With the University of Miami, same thing.
Yeah.
When they won them national championships. So without a
it
doubt,
matters.
I guess that's our argument sometime, Bishop and Campbell, and why we we just don't bite our teeth into having great football programs at these schools. That's what and I've been talking to some coaches now, and they running through, well, the dorm ain't ready, and the financial aid ain't where it's supposed to be, and the books ain't ready, and that was one of my arguments. It's like, we gonna have football every year. You don't wait till the fall and start putting it together. When January comes, I think the administration should start preparing to get ready for football season. So when them kids come there, everything's in place. And man, I hear the same stories, guys, I heard 40 years ago. Same stories as some of these schools. And if you don't gravitate to having a great athletic program, man, I just don't know. I don't know why we don't. And I understand that first thing they'll tell you is, oh, well, you don't generate, a whole bunch of money. But I think if you paying a kid a scholarship, I don't think you should count that towards athletics. I think it's just like academics. You give kids academic scholarships and they go off and graduate. They don't bring no money in during their 4 or 5 years going through being a doctor or a lawyer or whatever they trying to be, a school teacher. You just hope that when they get out there, that they give money back. Well, the football program is the biggest ambassador of the campus. It's the show, and it does bring in money to help the school. So I don't know why that we don't just put our teeth in and say we're gonna have the best football, basketball, revenue sport program that you could possibly have.
Coach, I'm gonna, you know what? I'm gonna second that, triple that, because you know what? Here's the crazy, and I'm gonna use Florida A&M as an example. Florida A&M football was bad. Okay, it was bad. Willie Simmons comes, reinvigorates the program, and all of a sudden, Coach, you got 18, 20,000 people in the stadium. All of a sudden, we're selling out. We're going to other places. All of a sudden, we win a national championship. You look at all the visibility of FAMU because of the football. Look at Jackson State. Deion comes back, reinvigorates the program. Now they're not only getting 30, they're getting 50, 60,000 people. They're getting all this national attention. Now you got kids that are saying, who is Jackson State? I'm going to go to Jackson State because I saw him on TV. Same thing. So the winning matters. I don't know why people don't understand that, because when you're able to put a winning team consistently, where you can go and bring 15, 20,000 people that, again, are people that are going to promote your program, that you're going to come take. No, I agree with that, Coach.
And you can see it every year. And it's always that one president or somebody come in and say, oh, we stand for academics. The University of Miami was at the pinnacle, and because they committed to having a great football program. As soon as that one president come in, oh no, we're not going to be like that. We're not going to. That school tanked. Yeah. And the board members immediately got together and said, we need to go hire us a better coach. I mean, it goes on and on. Michigan is Michigan, because Bo Schembacher and them old guys used to, coach them teams to winning records, man. The University of Alabama, you can't say enough. It's because of their football program.
Hey,
so
Coach.
I get it. Academics and athletics go hand in hand.
Hey, Coach, we got a caller. Caller, you're live on HBCU Coaches Corner. What's your name and where you're calling from? Make sure your background is turned down.
Hey, what's happening, gentlemen? This is A&T Roy.
What's up, A&T Roy?
Hey, man, I'm calling from Charlotte. I actually want to talk about a couple things before I get to this whole blue blood thing. I know this is a horse that's been beaten before and beaten a lot, but Coach Cole, I agree with you 1,000%. It is disgusting that our schools have been relegated to hiring people who have little to no college football coaching experience. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Now, on the other side of that, I do understand the publicity and all the things that come along with hiring those kind of folks with Deion and D-Jack and Michael Vick and all that. But hey, they aren't the first NFL or professional coaches that have been hired at HBCUs without much experience. So I just wanted to say that.
Right.
The second thing, Stephen Campbell, had it not been for a broken wristband on a cymbal, you all would not have won that HBCU band championship.
I know your pride was hurt because every time y'all go up against FAMU, you lose. And I get it. And you guys been fighting for number 2 behind us for so long, even in your whole lifetime. So I get it. It hurts. It does hurt. So I understand that.
Yeah. So I'm all right. And another thing was, I think what they did was they tried to make it so that it wouldn't look like John Grant had his hand in the pot, stirring the pot for us since he's an addict. Okay, let me go to the Blue Bloods. I think Tennessee State should be on that top row instead of South Carolina State. Because they got like 16 national championships, something like that.
They do.
Yeah, I don't know. And South Carolina State has done well, but I don't think Tennessee State should be down there on tier 2.
The sad part about it, all of Tennessee State's, and the reason why they there probably is because nobody wasn't around. All of them happened in the 70s and 80s. You know what I mean? After the mid 80s, like 86, 87, they struggled. But all in the early 80s and the 70s, they whooped ASS. You know what I mean?
And all those players that they had go to the NFL and all that. Yeah.
But wait a minute now. Wait a minute. Hold on. South Carolina has the most MEAC championships. They got 4 Hall of Famers. They've won national championships in multiple decades. How could you not say that they're a blue blood?
Well, okay, you only have 5 up there, so I would switch Tennessee State and South Carolina State.
Right.
Now,
let me ask you this. Let me ask you
this.
Let me ask you this, because I think you're right about that. If we went out and took a poll about who Tennessee State or South Carolina State, Tennessee State would people would know Tennessee State before they knew South Carolina State. When you agree, Bishop?
Yeah, well, see, but that's what I'm saying. But the thing about it, but then if I'm looking at what what a blue blood is, players produce national championships, conference championships. See, these are what I look at a blue, and consistency over the course of time. So look at the consistency of South Carolina State in multiple decades of winning conference championships, producing. Do people realize right now South Carolina State has the most NFL players for HBCU right now? Right now.
Yeah.
So that lets you know the level of consistency of NFL players. So
I don't have a problem with all that. I just think Tennessee State just because they have more national championships, even though they want to vote on them.
I think they can be raised up now without them South Carolina State being brought down. That's my thing. I think Tennessee State needs to be raised up now. South Carolina State being brought down, because I just think again when we're looking at the criteria of what a blue blood is, that goes. South Carolina State checks off every box.
Well, you know what? If you want to do that, make it 6 on tier 1, I'm okay with that. But now, here's what I'll say on tier 2, though. If you move Tennessee State up, A&T should be on tier 2 by itself. Hampton and Alabama State Alcorn ain't even close to us.
Now listen. I said that. I said Hampton needs to move down. Alabama State needs to move down. Alcorn, I think I understood it from the amount of NFL players that they produce and some of their great all-time teams. And again, they were right now. Remind you, Roy, understand this too. Right when you guys were having your run, Alcorn had the same run. Y'all just kept beating them. Okay? Because
no doubt.
So if you want to say so, Alcorn can say because you like to say the greatest run and all that. Alcorn can say they had the second greatest run because they kept running up against y'all and getting their ass beat, right?
Well, what it is the greatest dynasty ever in HBCU football. Now, I will say that, Alcorn won some stuff, but they lost to us every time. No, how about this? We're the only NBA school that had an undefeated season. We beat 3 straight FBS programs. We were in the top 25 like 2 or 3 straight years in a row. Alcorn was not even close to that stuff. But
listen what I just said though. Hold on. They won the SWAC all those years also. Okay. And they won the SWAC before the Celebration Bowl. Okay. Remember that. So remember, if the tables were turned, they'd have beat, what, you got to play them 3 times?
Yeah,
right?
we beat them 3 times.
You beat them 3 times. If they would have won those 3 times, guess what they would have said? We got the greatest HBCU dynasty in this decade, right?
Yeah. They probably could have said that, but guess what? They didn't win.
So you can't minimize the fact that they got to the game, because they did. They were the dominant team in the SWAC during that time, just like you were guys with a dominant team in the MEAC. Same thing.
Yeah. Now, we were there 4 times, and we went to the playoffs the 5th time that we didn't make it. Alcorn, Grambling played in 2 of those 5 years that we were around. So yeah, they're not on our same level. And we got 4 others. We got 8 national championships.
Right. Well, I don't have an argument with your argument, but what I'm saying is you can't sit back and dismiss what Alcorn did, because they played you guys. So and they've won SWAC championships too. So again, I'm just, let me see how many SWAC championships Alcorn won. Because now you got me thinking about something.
Well, I'm not dismissing them. I'm just saying they ain't on the same level with us. That's all I'm saying.
So A&T Roy, are you making the case for A&T to be a blue blood?
No. I'm saying we should be tier 2 by ourselves based on that list. Putting Tennessee State up on tier 1.
Now, Roy, let me ask you a question. You guys have 11 MEAC championships. Now, the MEAC started in 1970, so I don't know how many before Alcorn had before 7, but Alcorn has 13 SWAC championships. So does that not give them credence to be on the same level with you guys?
No. Because we beat them in national championships, and we beat them on the field.
So let me ask you this here, Roy. Roy, let me ask you this, and we can wrap up after this. If y'all were basically equal prior to your historic era, and you guys played 3 times in championship game, national championship game, are you saying because you guys won, they don't deserve to be on the same tier? You don't think they were equally successful because they played in the game against you guys?
Come on, Rocky. You know the answer to that. When they lose, they can't be on our level. 3 times? Come on. You can't do that.
That sounds personal. That sounds personal.
Yeah, they win the game, Roy. They win the game. You can't penalize them for being in the game. And that's what it seems like you're trying to do.
Yes, you can. We the game winner. The champion.
Y'all won
they weren't. What do you mean?
No, I'm talking about their program, though. You're trying to penalize their program for playing in the championship game.
That's what I'm saying. That's crazy. Yeah, exactly.
Hey, let me ask you something.
No, I'm not. I'm just saying they are not on our level because we beat them 3 straight times.
Look, Mr. A&T, let me ask you something. What about Hampton? Y'all probably beat them every year.
No. How about this? Hampton has their record against us is much worse. I mean, they're way ahead of us in winning.
Okay. So they used to beat y'all pretty good.
Yeah. But I think.
I forgot about
3 games in a row right now to Hampton.
What's my coach used to be there? He's at Virginia Union as the athletic director.
So A&T Roy, how does these last 3 seasons factor into your all by yourself status?
Hey, I don't know if you know, Rocky, but we had an 0-27 run back in the early 2000s.
Yeah.
Alcorn never had that, Roy.
Yeah, but listen, national championships. 4
they got
before
5.
the celebration.
They got Alcorn has 5 national championships. You guys got what, 8 allegedly?
8. Yeah. We got 8.
But
they got 5. They got 5. They got 5.
Some of them was in Division 2 now.
Okay. Yeah, I get it. But we had 4 before Celebration Bowl. Then we got 4 during the Celebration Bowl. And we went to the playoffs. And we had an undefeated season. We beat 3 FBS programs. I don't know anybody can say that. Nobody can say that.
Oh, Roy, my only point in saying it is you want to take the team off your tier that played in the national championship game with you, and they don't have the recent debacle of a history that you guys have right now. And so hold up. How does the recent history of the program, shouldn't it also, especially when it's one in, two in, shouldn't it also factor into how you guys are viewed?
Well, it might, but and let me say this. I think you all will agree with this. I don't know. But the level of competition we're playing against now is a bit different. And I'm gonna guarantee it's better than the SWAC.
So you're not beating them, so what difference does it make?
Well, it's showing that.
No, Roy. I'm a football guy. I don't know nothing about the SWAC. You can't talk about who you played until you beat them.
No, I'm just saying. Yeah. Hey, listen.
Roy, your argument. Wait a minute, hold on. Wait a minute, Roy. Here's the problem with your argument. It would work if, as you said, you coined the phrase "beat the blacks." Y'all ain't even beating the blacks. So take the CAA out of it.
Only this past year.
So South Carolina State mopped you up. Central's been mopping you up. So you can't claim that if you can't be. It would be fine if y'all were undefeated against the blacks.
Did they lose against Winston-Salem a couple years ago?
They almost did. They should have lost.
No. We barely beat them.
Morgan State whoops them up.
Yeah, that was during the greatest dynasty ever. And Florida A&M won 2 games.
Yeah,
they won those games. I'll take those celebration balls.
Yeah, well, exactly. We already know. I'm not going to rehash that. But you see what he did, Rocky?
Every school loses during the season.
Hey, he moved the goalposts out in the parking lot. What he did?
He can't beat the blacks.
Hey, look. It was only last year that we didn't beat the blacks. The years before that, we beat them.
Did y'all have a Division I win last year?
We did not. Hey, look, and I got PTSD around it too, baby. I'm hurting over this.
Being that you guys play in that conference, I actually want you guys to be successful. Yeah. I want you guys to represent HBCUs and black colleges in a good way. It's just that you guys have not been able to do that. Yeah. And you can say what you want to about that conference, but nobody in the CAA is winning national championships.
Yeah, so this year we play in the beginning of the season, there are 3 CAA teams ranked in the top 25. And don't get me wrong, I agree. Every time we beat them,
were there any CAA teams ranked higher than Jackson State?
Yes, I think 2.
Okay.
Villanova and I think Rhode Island. So,
but not the whole conference, huh?
Hey, listen. No. Only 3. I think it's 3 of them in the top 25. So listen. Every time the HBCUs beat PWIs, man, it's for the culture. And we can hate on each other, but and some people don't do that. They don't like it still. But man, it's for the culture, and it helps all of us look good.
Well, I want to say something. I think we
we love the fact that. Again.
No, I want to say I was very excited that you guys was winning those FBS teams, beating those FBS teams, because their FAMU would come back and beat y'all, and we would be like, "This is awesome." You know what I'm saying? So it gave us a measure of state.
Yeah.
What was that? Appalachian State they beat? Who they beat? Appalachian State?
We beat Appalachian before. That was before they moved up to FBS. They were leaving the next year.
Okay.
But the 3 teams that we beat FBS were Kent State, Charlotte, and East Carolina.
Okay.
East Carolina was the one where he said, "Show me my money," right? That was "Show me my money" game, right? Bring me my money game, right?
Yes. Yeah, they didn't want to pay. They wanted to cancel the game because it got rained out on Saturday, and they didn't want to pay us. But we ended up saying, "No, we're gonna play this game. Y'all gonna pay us." That's what he said. Show me my money. No, bring me my money.
Hey, thank you, Roy. We're finna wrap up, man. I appreciate you calling in. And don't be a stranger. Call in again, man.
Okay, man, I'll do it.
Hey, thank you much.
Hey, Coach Cole, it's time for you to get us out of here. But I'll let Campbell have his words before we leave.
Hey man, I'm gonna say something. I've got this book here, HBCU Sports 101 by HBCU. Kim Richard, my guy. Can you believe, Coach? You're not gonna believe this. A Grambling guy actually wrote this book. Can you believe they got that type of education where they can write books down there at Grambling? But this is one of. Go ahead, Coach. What you want to say?
I was going to say about Eddie Robinson, one of the longest winningest coaches in NCAA. So where did it come better from Grambling State graduate?
Yeah, absolutely. But no, I'm teasing. Ken Rashad's my guy. I ask everybody, hey man, go support him, KenRashad.com. Buy it. Great book, a great read. Every HBCU person should get this book. Support this brother. Again, and this is Ken, you see him on HBCU Sports. That's his face on the back. But I told him I'm going to shout him out. I got this book, so it's going to be a great read. So, once again, this just shows what all our alums are doing at, all these various schools, writing books, doing all these great things. But, shout out to Ken Rashad. Again, I bought the book. He didn't hook the boy up. So I want everywhere to go to KenRashad.com and buy HBCU Sports 101.
Oh, man, that's great, man. That's fabulous, man. We're back in the saddle, Campbell, and it's a great field, man, to get this game back going. Is Rocky still on here? Can you tell us?
Yeah.
Can you tell us who we got on Thursday?
On Thursday, I let them know early in the broadcast, Coach.
Okay, I'm sorry.
We got your protege, none other than Tremaine Jackson, head coach of Prairie View A&M University.
Got them folks fired up. Got folks telling lies down there, Coach. Got them believing they don't know the difference between the goal and the standard.
It's 7 o'clock, right? 7 p.m. Houston time?
Yeah.
Texas time? It's doing a lot of great things, man. So, guys, right now we're trying to round up all the SWAC and MEAC head football coaches, to get everybody riled up and get ready for the season. It starts August 23rd when you got North Carolina Central and the Southern Jaguars in Atlanta, Georgia, and we'll be there. Again, guys, hey, the world, man, is left, is right, is up and down, is explosive. We've been having all these tornadoes and fires and everything, man. So if you feel yourself at the end of the rope, you tie a knot, baby. I guarantee you, because ain't nobody bad like you. Keep hanging in there.